Chapter 343. On the second day after Zhu Yao arrived at the demonic immortal continent, she suddenly realized something. She actually did not transform back into that celestial sword. Logically speaking, Master had said that he could put her into the storage artifact for 3 breaths of time. It could be 1 breath, it could be 2 breaths, but it would definitely not exceed 3 breaths. But now, let alone 3 breaths, even 3,030,000 breaths would be enough. However, she was still in her body and did not return. This could only mean that either her conjecture was incorrect, or she had dug a pit for herself. Either, she was too far away and the signal was cut off. In short, she wouldn't be returning to the sword for a while. He didn't know if this was good news or bad news, but being locked up was definitely not good news. After the 2 demonic immortals took her back to the demonic immortal palace, they threw her into prison without any hesitation. What happened to being friends? Little sister, after we finish our investigation, we'll come and see you again. Saying that, the yellow and red immortals waved their sleeves, not taking a single cloud with them.
Ciao.
Zhu Yao stayed in this prison that was filled with formations for 2 days, yet no one came to investigate. He couldn't go on like this. He had to get out. Although he couldn't leave the demonic immortal continent, he could at least send a message to his master to report that he was safe. Sesame, do you have any research on formations? She looked at the formations around her for a long while, yet she was unable to determine their attributes. She could only seek help from Sesame, who was familiar with the map. That's right, she wanted to break out of prison. Mistress, Sesame doesn't know either. However, the formation in the demonic immortal palace is very unique. No matter how powerful a demonic immortal is, they won't be able to escape from it. Sesame replied, faintly carrying a hint of pride. Are you sure? Of course. I heard that the spell formation here was personally arranged by the previous generation's demon king of the demonic immortal palace, using the bloodline as the guide. No one. Hey. Before he could even finish, Zhu Yao stood up, patted the dust off her face, and immediately walked out. She was so relaxed that she did not feel the slightest bit of pressure. Sesame's face was filled with disbelief. Mistress, how did you come out? Didn't you say that all demonic immortals can't come out? Zhu Yao scoffed. It's not like I'm a demonic immortal. What the hell does a formation laid down by a bloodline have to do with me? The demon immortal king cried until he fainted in the toilet. Though Zhu Yao was out, she did not dare to casually step out of the sky prison. Although the array inside was deceptive, the entrance was heavily guarded. She did not release her divine sense, but she could feel the pressure of the golden immortals on both sides of the door. She could not force her way in. Furthermore, the realm tide would only close after a year. Even if she left, she wouldn't be able to return to Lightning Divine Hall. He didn't know what to do. Master, let's head south. Sesame suddenly suggested. Why? Sesame paused for a moment and then slowly said, because I have a friend over there, and he's extremely powerful. Maybe he knows of another way to go to the immortal cultivation continent. Really? Zhu Yao doubted. Of course it's real. She swept a glance at Sesame, who was in her divine sense. A beastie like you as friends too? Mossed her. Although he didn't have any moral integrity, he didn't care. But he still had the right to make friends. How can you be so unconfident and beastie? I am after all. Enough nonsense. Zhu Yao immediately interrupted him. Let's think of a way out first. Zhu Yao was a little troubled. In terms of martial strength, she was definitely not their match, and their reinforcements were thousands of miles away. This was the demon immortal palace with the highest density of demon immortals. If he wanted to get out, he would have to use a cheat. Ting. A conversation window suddenly popped out. The hell? It really provided cheats, hey? The words on the conversation window this time were rather simple. It was neatly written, friendship cheat, stealth system activate or cancel. Stealth. Zhu Yao became excited and immediately tapped on the activate option. In the next moment, her body was beginning to turn transparent inch by inch. First, her legs, then her body. Slowly, her entire body disappeared. And then, with a splat, Sesame was thrown out. Zhu Yao, mistress, what's going on? Sesame, who did not know the truth, panicked. She didn't know either. After trying, she realized that she was completely unable to keep Sesame back into her divine sense. Could this be the drawback of a trial item? The functions were too trial, right? Before she could think clearly, Sesame's cries had attracted the guards at the entrance. Who's there? Two demon immortals charged in. Looking at Sesame on the ground, they looked as though they had seen a ghost. Your Highness. The hell was your Highness? Just as she was puzzled, Sesame had already been tied up into a dumpling. Release me. Hurry and release me. I'm a beastie with an owner. Sesame struggled for a long while to no avail, as it was carried out by the two demon immortals with one head each. After all, it was her own beastie, so Zhu Yao had no choice but to follow them. Because of the stealth cheat, along the way, she was not discovered by anyone. The two demon immortals carried Sesame excitedly and walked into the tallest hall in the demonic immortal palace. As they walked, they even raised their voices and announced to the world, "Hurry and inform the princess. Your Highness Sesame has returned." They attracted a crowd of onlookers. Sesame's entire face turned green as it struggled even more violently. Release me. What are you two beasts trying to do to me? I will never obey you. Can you not lose your integrity at a time like this? However, no matter how it roared, it was completely useless. The two demon immortals joyfully carried it all the way to the great hall and then threw it onto the ground. Only then did the two of them kowtow. Reporting to your majesty. Earlier, we discovered your Highness Sesame in the heavenly prison. We have brought him here. Amen. A dignified voice sounded from above. Well done. You may leave. Only then did the two demon immortals stand up and retreat, leaving behind Sesame, who was tied up like a dumpling. Zhu Yao raised her head and saw a white-haired and white-bearded elder sitting on the stage in the great hall. He was dressed in dark-colored robes, and there were even faint blood-colored patterns embroidered on his robes. His cultivation level was a little unclear, but it was most likely above that of a heavy deity. This should be the Demon King. He lightly swept his eyes towards the dumpling on the ground. Even though she was in stealth mode, Zhu Yao could still feel the pressure from his body. She could not help but be a little worried that he would really do something to Sesame. Stinky brat, you're finally back, he lightly said. Walking down from the stage, the corner of his lips lifted into a faint smile. This is the second time. The hell, if you have the guts, release this daddy. Sesame struggled for a few times like a fish that had come ashore. Old man, just give up. I will never marry that precious daughter of yours. The Demon King's expression darkened. Frowning, he pulled Sesame up and said with a little anger, You've already descended to the realm twice. Why are you still not obedient? As long as you agree to marry Gonglan, this seat of the demonic immortal king will be yours. You make it sound as though I really want it. Sesame rolled his eyes. This daddy doesn't like her, and I don't want to marry her. I just don't want to marry her. I'm just that unrestrained and free. The Demon King's expression sank, and he patiently advised, What's wrong with Gonglan? You two grew up together and ascended together. How is she not worthy of you? How is she not worthy of me? Sesame continued to be stubborn. I don't want to marry a two-legged beastie. You. The Demon King was enraged as well. Gonglan is a feathered race. Have you ever seen a feathered race with 4 legs? I don't care, Sesame said with a scoundrel look. I just don't like two-legged people. I just want to marry a girl of the same race. You're simply heartless and unreasonable. You're the heartless one. You're the heartless one. You're the unreasonable one. No matter how heartless I am, why did this line develop in such a strange direction, hey? Heske. Seeing how the two of them were able to match each other's lines, their relationship shouldn't be that bad. She had worried for nothing this time. Your clansmen are as rare as phoenix feathers and Chielin horns in the first place. You actually want to find someone of the same race so badly. The corner of the Demon King's lips twitched. He really wanted to strangle him to death, as he heavily panted and said, Then why don't you find one for me to see? I found one. Sesame's eyes instantly shone. What? Sesame hinted for him to undo the bindings on his body. The Demon King hesitated for a moment. Figuring that it wouldn't be able to play any tricks in front of him, he waved his hand and loosened the bindings. Sesame flipped his hand, and in an instant, a gigantic egg appeared next to him. Zhu Yao was startled. This was the egg of the spirit-guiding beast from the lower realm. Sesame really brought it up to the higher realm. He hugged it with his hands as though it was a treasure, and his eyes shone. "See that, old man? This egg's aura is the same as mine. I found it in the lower realm. It's definitely of the same race as me." Just because of an egg. The Demon King frowned. He still wanted to say something. A demonic immortal walked in and reported, "King, Princess Lan requests an audience." Zhu Yao felt Sesame visibly tremble for a moment. His two hands, which were initially lying on top of the egg, retracted halfway as well, as though he was subconsciously trying to hide. Was this the female lead's appearance? Zhu Yao was instantly excited. After realizing that the Demon King did not have any ill intentions towards Sesame, she unconsciously activated her spectator mode. "Call her in." The Demon King hesitated for a moment before waving his hand and said. A moment later, footsteps could be heard coming from the entrance. A valiant woman walked in. She was dressed in battle armor, and it seemed like she had yet to remove it. Her face was expressionless, her eyes were firm, and her feet were firm. Her entire body was filled with an indescribable majesty. So handsome. Zhu Yao could not help but want to give her a thumbs up. She had never seen a woman who could be this handsome. Back then, when she saw how Sesame was rejecting this princess so much, she had even thought that this princess's appearance was too unsightly. So not only was this girl not ugly, she was even this handsome. "Sesame, are you blind?" Gong Lan walked in one step at a time. Her eyes glanced at Sesame at the side, but she immediately shifted her eyes away. Cupping her hands, she bowed towards the Demon King and said, "Your daughter greets father. Stand up, stand up." Compared to Sesame, the Demon King was evidently as gentle as a spring breeze and rain towards this princess. He personally went forward to help the person on the ground up. "How was your trip to Cold Imperial Forest this time? Were you injured?" "Thank you for your concern, father," she replied with a stern expression. "Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. I have already taken control of the towering ice beast and have now been escorted back to the prison." Good. The Demon King beamed with joy as he patted on Gong Lan's shoulder. "It's good that you're back. Sesame is here as well. Let's take this opportunity to settle the marriage between the two of you." Gong Lan was stunned, while Sesame at the side immediately exploded. "Are you for real? Old man, you're crazy. I've already said it many times. This daddy doesn't like her in the slightest. I don't want to marry her." "Shut up." The Demon King glared at him. "There's no room for discussion. You have to marry her even if you don't want to. This daddy isn't going to marry her. Kill me if you can." "Do you think I don't dare to? Come on." Just as the two of them were about to escalate from a verbal battle to a physical one, Gong Lan frowned. She suddenly bowed towards the Demon King and said, "I hope that my majesty can cancel the engagement between us." "What?" The Demon King was startled as he looked at Gong Lan with a face of disbelief. Didn't you always want it? Laner, you have to think this through. Don't act in a moment of anger. Don't worry, if this brat dares to bully you in the future, this daddy will be the first to not let him off." Gong Lan turned to glance at Sesame. Her expression was complicated, as though it was hiding many unspeakable things. Sesame trembled from her gaze and turned its head away a little uncomfortably. She shook her head with a light smile. "There's no need for that. Those were all jokes I made when I was young. You can't treat them seriously. Now, let's just treat this engagement as if it never happened." "Laner, father." Gong Lan still spoke in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. He descended to the lower realm twice, so he can be considered to have paid the price. What's the point of continuing to pester him? The Demon King turned silent. You're the one who said it." Sesame weakly leaped out. "You're not allowed to go back on your words. I'm leaving right now. You're not allowed to chase after me again." Gong Lan turned to glance at him. The complicated emotions in her eyes had already disappeared, turning into clarity. Your Highness, please take care. Sesame choked, as though he had heard something unbelievable. His expression became complicated. Stinky brat, you want to run just like that? It won't be that easy. The Demon King looked as though he was going to settle the score with him. However, he was stopped by Gong Lan. Sesame immediately ran out of the Great Hall, and without even turning back, he left the Demon King's palace. Because he was in too much of a hurry, he had even forgotten that he could fly. When she caught up to him, he was already lying on the ground in exhaustion, panting like a dog. However, he was still smiling with a complacent look, as though he had just won a prize. Ha 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 ha. I finally don't have to marry that ugly monster anymore. That's great. Mistress, mistress. He danced about for a long while and began to search for Zhu Yao. Although he could not see her, as a contracted beastie, he could still sense that she was by his side. Mistress, hurry and come out. Accompany this beastie in happiness. Just as Zhu Yao was about to remove the invisibility function on the upper right corner, a red figure suddenly flashed in front of her eyes. Princess Gong Lan, who was still in the Great Hall earlier, suddenly appeared. Sesame was shocked as he looked at her with a guarded expression. You, what are you trying to do now? I'm telling you, you were the one who said to cancel the engagement. Don't even think of going back on your words. I don't like it at all. Gong Lan did not say anything and simply handed over a pearl-like pearl. What's this? Sesame was startled. Tasio luck. Zhu Yao was startled. Tasio luck. Wasn't that the secret realm she saw Sesame for the first time? Gong Lan slowly said. This was given to me by your mother back then. When you were punished to the lower realm, I sent it along with you to the lower realm. The first time you came back, I summoned it back. Now, this belongs to you in the first place, so I'm returning it to you. Sesame was stunned. He looked at the pearl in her hand a little hesitantly, as though he was unsure if he should take it back. Gong Lan, however, immediately stuffed it into his hands. Father is already a late-stage high deity, and he will be heading to the Lightning Divine Hall to enter the tower in a few days. He doesn't have much time left. You should come back to visit him more often. After all, you're his biological son. After saying that, she turned around and materialized a pair of gigantic red wings. With a flap of her wings, without the slightest bit of hesitation, she disappeared without a trace. Sesame held onto the pearl and did not move for a long while. A moment later, he blankly said, Mistress, why do I feel a little uncomfortable? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. Chapter 344. Sesame was very sad. Clearly, it did not like Gong Lan, but after seeing her return the dimensional space that her mother had passed to her to him, and even turned around and left without any hesitation, he felt his heart ache, numb, and a little bit of pain. He did not understand this kind of thing at all, nor did he have any experience. Hence, he decided to seek guidance from his experienced master, Zhu Yao. However, its master, who had always been kind and reasonable, stared at it with a look of disdain. It stared at it for a long time, causing its hair to stand on end. Only then did he chuckle with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. He forcefully patted on his head and said with a sunken voice, Sesame, straight man cancer is an illness. It has to be treated. What the hell was straight man cancer? Why is Master always so profound when he speaks? I can't understand him at all. Zhu Yao sighed. Seeing that it couldn't figure it out no matter how hard it scratched its head, she spoke up. Let me put it this way. Why don't you want to marry her? Of course it's because we're of different races. How can we? Tell me the truth. Zhu Yao interrupted its words. Don't try to fool me with the matter of 2 legs and 4 legs. Even the Demon King wouldn't believe such words, all right? Sesame lowered its head, and only after a while did it muffled say, I'm a little afraid of her. Scared? This was new. You don't know how terrifying she is. Sesame said with a reproachful look. When my mother picked her up, she had already scratched my face. Just because he's a level higher than me, he bullied me since I was young. When I was young, she was the one who beat me up everywhere. Later on, when I finally ascended, she would still beat me whenever I made a mistake. You think you're so great just because your cultivation is high? Humph. I don't want to marry such a female beast. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. You can't even beat a woman, and you're still saying you're in the right? Then doesn't she have anything good in her? Zhu Yao was suspicious. Has she never helped you before? No, he said angrily. He would only tell on me to the old man. Join forces with the old man to beat me up. Yet, my father and mother both like her and value her more than me. She's so sinister, cunning, and shameless. Are you sure? I'm sure. Sesame gritted its teeth. Suddenly, as though it had thought of something, it muttered a moment later. If she doesn't let others beat me up, that's good enough. Someone else? What do you mean? There's a chance. In any case, she didn't just beat me. She also beat other beasts. Don't let other beasts find trouble with me, he said with a frown. She made everyone afraid of her and implicated me. Be it the upper realm or the lower realm, I don't have a single friend. It's all her fault. Zhu Yao sized Sesame up for a moment, as though this was the first time she had seen such a strange oddity. Sesame, do you have a brain? This was obviously an act of protecting him, right? How cruel was the demonic beast world in the lower realm? Didn't he know? Due to the problem of intelligence, the beasts were always fighting for territory with each other. You want to fight to the death just because you don't agree? You want to be friends with other beasts? Are you out of your mind? What right do you have to despise a good sister who always protects you? Sesame, I think it's best if we cancel the contract. With a beastie like you, I'm afraid it will affect my IQ. Mistress. Sesame scowled. I'm really pitiful. Scram. Scumbag. Don't infect my master. Aren't we going to the south to look for your friend? She changed the topic. MN, he weakly replied. Your matters can't be sorted out in a short period of time. Others can't interfere with matters of the heart either. Why don't we head out together? And think about it. Zhu Yao glanced at him and said, but you have to think it through. Do you really hate that Gong Lan to the point where you don't want to interact with her anymore? You have to understand. Once you miss out on some things, you can never get them back. She did not know what Sesame was thinking, but that handsome girl earlier did not seem like a beast that was so casual about feelings. Most likely, she really liked Sesame, which was why she wanted to marry him. However, his repeated rejections of marriage had most likely deeply hurt her a long time ago. The heart was made of flesh, and it couldn't endure repeated injuries. If he missed out on this opportunity, if he wanted to turn back in the future, it would most likely be too late. Sesame was silent for a moment, and then turned away as though he was avoiding something. Mistress matters are more important. Let's head to the south. As he said that, he transformed into his original form. Placing one of his wings down, he gestured for her to climb onto his back. Zhu Yao sighed and climbed onto his back. Sesame then flew up. However, evidently, he was a little absent-minded this time. Though his speed did not decrease, he had evidently blocked off the navigation system. Sesame, there's a stone wall in front. If we continue forward, we'll crash into it. Sesame, there's a lightning cloud in front. Do you want to turn into barbecue? Sesame, there's a demonic immortal in front. Do you want to get into a car accident? Sesame, she had reminded him like that the entire journey, yet she was unable to stop his death-seeking heart. Fortunately, she had an external concealment system on her, preventing herself from being discovered by the demonic immortals that passed by. Otherwise, she would have been captured back countless times. Sesame was absent-minded just like that, as he stumbled his way to their destination. She had thought that it had a really awesome friend, but in the end, they arrived at the side of a straw cottage. There was a courtyard in front of her, and it was completely empty inside. Not even a single weed could be seen. The straw cottage's door was even creaking in the wind, and the entire place was closely centered around the theme of poverty. The surroundings were filled with green mountains and clear waters, and divine energy lingered around it. The surroundings were rather nice. Sesame landed on the ground and transformed back into his human form. He immediately pushed open the door and walked in. Zhu Yao followed after him, but the house was completely empty. He's not here. Sesame looked around and was a little disappointed. When he turned his head, he saw a black rod on the table. This is... Mistress, hurry and take a look, he suddenly said with an excited look. With this, we can cross the realm tide and return to the deity continent. What's this? Zhu Yao glanced at the item in his hands. It was a metallic cylinder, and there was no divine energy floating around it. It didn't look like a divine artifact and looked extremely normal. She couldn't see anything special about it. This is an ancient mechanism formation. Sesame held onto the rod and looked at it. He then tried to twist it, and a few creaking sounds could be heard, as though something was being activated. With a few swoosh, 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 the cylinder that was only the length of an arm earlier suddenly began to change shape. In just a few moments, Sesame was completely wrapped up. Sesame? Zhu Yao was shocked. I'm fine, he replied. With another few creaking sounds, that black cover once again turned back into a cylinder. Mistress, with this, we can block the wind blades of the realm tide and return to the deity continent. How do you know that this thing is useful? Zhu Yao carefully inspected that rod. It did look a little like a mechanism technique and did not look like it was forged using a divine art. It was no wonder it didn't contain any divine energy. I've seen my friend use this before. Sesame explained. This thing is very sturdy, and the wind blades are basically unable to move it. Furthermore, it's not a divine artifact, so it won't be dissolved by the breathless wind blades. It sounded really incredible. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Zhu Yao pulled Sesame out of the house. Wait a minute. It's not good for us to take it away just like that, right? Why did she feel a little guilty about stealing something? It's fine. Sesame patted his chest and guaranteed. In any case, he has a lot of things, so he won't mind. Chapter 345. The two of them returned to the border, where the wind blades were still howling. Previously, she didn't feel that there was anything special about the wind, but this time, she subconsciously released her divine sense, only to find that as soon as her divine sense came into contact with the wind blade, it automatically dispersed. As expected of the universal DEL erase key. Let's go. Zhu Yao took a step towards Sesame and gestured for him to open the strange mechanism in his hands. After waiting for a moment, she realized that there was no reaction. Zhu Yao turned to look, and he was actually in a daze. This clown who couldn't stay still could actually be in a daze as well. She couldn't help but raise her hand and knock on its head. What are you doing? Open it. She remembered that there were two guards, one red and one yellow, nearby. What if she was discovered if she dragged on? Sesame choked from her smack, as though it had just regained its senses. Oh. It responded and spun the black cylinder in its hand. With a few swishing sounds, a black metallic sphere appeared around the two of them and enveloped them. Zhu Yao thought that it would be very dark inside, but unexpectedly, it was actually transparent from the inside, and everything in the surroundings could be seen clearly. She couldn't help but poke them. They were like scales and were quite hard. Sesame, on the other hand, was only left with a small black block that looked like a building block. This is the formation core. Just press it, and it will be restored. Sesame explained. Oh. Zhu Yao nodded. Without saying anything else, she immediately walked forward. Sesame immediately followed. As it moved, the entire protective barrier moved forward as well. It was pretty intelligent. Zhu Yao was a little excited. This was high technology, and it was a little similar to modern technology. It turned out that the ancient mechanism technique was not limited to the 9-grid 5-character chess. They walked into the realm tide and found that the barrier was very practical. The wind blades immediately scattered when they hit it. There wasn't even an echo. Occasionally, when it encountered a strong gust of wind, it would produce a very small muffled sound. Zhu Yao's initially tense heart immediately relaxed. She did not know how far this realm tide was either. He wanted to return as soon as possible, but he noticed that the beast holding the switch was walking slower and slower. From time to time, he would tilt his head, but he would immediately turn his head back. She looked as if she wanted to look but didn't want to. A good journey had turned into a stroll. In the end, It was like a tortoise crawling. Zhu Yao simply stopped and let out a deep sigh. Sesame. Come over here. Zhu Yao picked up the person next to her. He turned around and walked back, walking out of the realm tide and back to the starting point. She snatched the switch from his hand and returned it to its cylindrical shape. Then, she pointed in the direction of the demonic immortal palace and said, "You go back first. I'll return to Lightning Divine Hall by myself." Mistress. Sesame was startled for a moment, and then it immediately revealed a wronged look. Are you going to abandon Beastie again? Scram. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at it. If you can't bear to, then go look for her yourself. It doesn't matter if you're shameless or not, you're good at it anyway. If you like her, then fucking chase after her. Why are you delaying me and hesitating? Are you even a man? No, Sesame said with a serious look. I'm just a male beastie. Fuck. Is this the time to care about these details? I'm letting you make the decision. Don't keep nagging. You're giving me a headache. Just tell me if you like Gong Lan or not. Sesame's entire face instantly collapsed, and it said with a wronged and conflicted look, I don't know either. I really hate her. Just because she's stronger than you. Did she bully you when you were young? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at it, and then Sesame's head lowered even further. A moment later, it solemnly replied, I bullied her quite a bit when I grew up. Zhu Yao let out a long sigh. This idiot whose EQ was low. Sesame, have you ever thought about why you mind her beating you up so much? He was startled for a moment, and then he raised his head. Zhu Yao solemnly said, You're a demonic beast. You must have experienced a lot of killing. Could it be that she's the only one who beat you up? Why do you only hate her? That's different. Sesame argued. How is it different? I'm not familiar with the other beasties, so I don't have the mood to hate them. Furthermore, I did beat them back in the end. Then what about me? Zhu Yao looked at it. I'm stronger than you as well, and I often beat you up as well. Do you hate me? You don't count. You're the mistress. We have a contract. Fine. Zhu Yao nodded. Then I'll change to another one. What about my master? He tortured you the moment he saw you. Do you hate him? I hate him. Zhu Yao threw a pot sticker at it. This old man is being serious with you. Sesame felt wronged as it rubbed its head. It wasn't like it wasn't being serious either. Then let me put it in another way. Zhu Yao solemnly said, That girly Gong Lan is stronger than you, but it's not like you can't catch up to her cultivation. If one day your cultivation surpasses hers, what do you want to do? Defeat her, of course. Sesame's eyes shone. And then? Sesame frowned. After pondering for a moment, it said, and then, do everything she did to me in the past. For example, snatch away her enemies and chase away all of her opponents so that she would never have the chance to make a move again. Then, chase away all of the male beasties that approach her, who ask them to flaunt their prowess in front of me. Every single day, they would stare at her, and the moment she's in trouble, they would immediately rush out, not giving her the chance to show off. And then they would. He paused halfway through his words, as though he had sensed something was amiss with his words as well, as his face stiffened. Zhu Yao smiled and immediately exposed his thoughts. You want to protect her. His eyes suddenly widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. How is that possible? He didn't. Just why are you treating Gong Lan so differently? Have you ever seriously thought about it? Zhu Yao continued. You said you hate her for always charging ahead of you. You hate her for stealing your limelight, and you hate her for having a higher cultivation level than you. And all of these are built on the foundation that your cultivation level is lower than hers. If your cultivation level is higher, you would do the same for her as well. You're just unhappy that the person charging ahead isn't you. What you hate isn't her, but the feeling of having no choice but to hide behind her. Sesame, what you hate isn't her, but your powerless self, right? He sank into silence. His face shook, as though he had sunk into some sort of daze. Towards a person like this who couldn't understand, Zhu Yao had no choice but to add fuel to the fire. But you don't have to worry now. She has already decided to draw a line between you and her. In the future, no one will charge ahead of you. No one will steal your limelight. No one will beat you up. Oh, of course. She smiled and continued. She might do the same in the future, but the beast behind her, it's not you anymore. No. Sesame's face was filled with panic. Why not? There aren't many female demonic immortals. Without you, she has more choices. Maybe she can find someone stronger than her, and someone will protect her in the future. I can do it too, Sesame anxiously argued. My cultivation is already about the same as hers. It's just that in the lower realms, when I recover. So what if I recover? She doesn't care anymore. His face instantly turned pale. Sesame. Zhu Yao patted on its shoulder. In the end, it was her family's beastie, so she could not bear to see it alone. Admit it. What you hate is not her, but the gap between the two of you. You are afraid that if she is too far away from you, you will not be able to catch up. You hated the fact that you could only hide behind her. You were afraid that you weren't good enough for her. But have you ever thought that she might have been waiting for you on the road all along? You can see the distance when you look back. Don't let your inferiority complex become a sharp weapon to hurt each other. If it's cut too deeply, she will feel pain as well. Mistress. Sesame raised its head even more blankly and looked at her with teary eyes. What you're saying? I don't understand a single word. The hell? Zhu Yao wanted to pinch it to death. The chicken soup she cooked for so long had all been poured into the gutter. Mistress, what should we do? Sesame looked as though he was about to cry. What if she really goes to bully others? The moment I think of it, I feel a little strange. She's so violent. The other beasties won't be able to stand her. Only I can. I don't want her to bully other beasties. Fortunately, she could still be saved. Then go snatch her back. Zhu Yao said. Go back and hug her thigh. Just do what you did to Gong Lan in the past. That's all you have to do. This way, she won't bully other beasties. Zhu Yao nodded. After pondering for a moment, she shook her head. She still had to give this stupid beast a push. This isn't enough. You have to have an honorable identity. Only then will you be able to get rid of future troubles. What identity? Marry her. Sesame was silent for a moment. His eyes, however, grew clearer. Suddenly, as though he had understood something, he immediately reverted to his original form. Mistress, I can't accompany you back to Lightning Divine Hall. Emin, Zhu Yao nodded and waved her hands. Go and be tortured, young man. Sesame flew one round in the air. Suddenly, he thought of something and turned back. A gigantic egg then appeared in front of her. Mistress, I'll give this egg to you. After saying that, he flapped his wings and hurriedly rushed back. A moment later, he disappeared without a trace. Zhu Yao. Did she look like a warehouse? Zhu Yao turned to look at the egg at the side. Suddenly, she thought of something, and her eyes sank. Her brows deeply furrowed. She lowered her head to look at the mechanism in her hands, and then immediately turned it on. Without even looking at the egg behind her, she immediately walked into the realm tide. Just when Zhu Yao's figure was about to disappear into the wind blades, the white egg suddenly moved. With a grumble, it immediately chased after her. About 3 to 4 steps away from her, it blindly followed behind her. Zhu Yao naturally heard the sound behind her, but she did not care about it. She did not even turn back as she quickened her footsteps and walked out of the realm tide. However, her brows furrowed even deeper. As expected, this realm tide was very wide. Adding that she could not cast any arts or fly on her sword, Zhu Yao had to walk for a total of 6 hours before she could faintly see patches of green ahead. She finally reached the end. She heaved a sigh of relief. She quickened her footsteps and walked out. In front of her was a familiar yet unfamiliar forest. She walked for a distance, and only when she was a little further away from the realm tide did she remove the protective barrier on her body and return to her cylindrical form. That white egg rolled out of the realm tide as well, and it still stopped about 3 to 4 steps away from her. Zhu Yao simply felt a sense of irritation in the depths of her heart. Since she could not fly on her sword, she could only cast an art and shrink into the forest. However, no matter how fast she walked or how slow she was, that egg still followed behind her at a distance that was neither too far nor too close, and did not fall behind in the slightest. Finally, Zhu Yao could no longer endure it. She stopped at the exit of the forest and let out a long sigh. Just how long are you going to follow me for? She turned around and looked at that egg. Yuing. That egg stiffened for a moment and then stopped on the spot. A moment later, a black light flashed in Zhu Yao's hand. That cylindrical mechanism turned into a ray of light and entered the egg. The egg that was initially white slowly turned black. The egg that only had an aura earlier suddenly began to show signs of life. Furthermore, it cracked open inch by inch, and an entirely pitch-black phoenix appeared from within. In the next moment, that black phoenix once again turned into a familiar half-grown child. He was dressed in black and was extremely skinny. He looked like Yu Ying, who had just come out of the ice for the first time, and Xiaobai, who was walking out from the devilish energy that filled the sky. He opened his mouth, as though he wanted to say something. Zhu Yao, however, did not want to hear it. She could not be bothered with him, and turned around to continue on her journey. Yu Ying lowered his eyes a little disappointedly. He did not make a single sound, but he did not dare to fall behind as he followed from afar. If she was fast, he would be fast. If she was slow, he would be slow as well. It was as though he did not exist. Zhu Yao intentionally chose a path that was harder to walk on, such as flipping over this huge rock or stepping on that swamp. In the end, even though she was half dead from exhaustion, a certain someone still followed her blindly. There was a fire burning in her heart, yet she was unable to vent it out. She could only choose to ignore it. She walked for an entire day and night before she could faintly see a small market in front of her. At that moment, she heaved a sigh of relief and decided to find a transportation tool. Since she could not fly back by herself, she should at least make a call. Apui, find a voice transmission talisman to inform her master to fetch her. The market was pitifully small, and there were only 3 or 4 stalls. There were none that sold voice transmission talismans, but there was one that sold divine artifacts. She chose the lowest-ranked first-rank divine sword, and only after touching her pockets did she realize that she was a pauper. Senior. The stall owner was an earth deity, and he was rather courteous. It's fine if you don't have divine stones. If you have items of equal value to exchange, that's fine as well. Exchange? She could even barter with items. It's just a small business. The stall owner's thoughts were rather wonderful. After all, the other party was a profound deity and was a level higher than him. She would definitely have quite a few good items, and he might even be able to earn a sum of money. Today is the first day of business. As long as Senior can bring it out, anything can be exchanged. Truly a pauper, Zhu Yao. She touched her entire body, but she could not even take out a single hair. Could it be that she really had to walk back to Lightning Divine Hall? Her legs would break, right? She turned to look at the tail behind her, and with a frown, she once again confirmed, "Can I really exchange anything?" "Of course." The stall owner patted his chest and guaranteed. Chapter 346. 10,000 alpacas ran across the stall owner's head. "Are you freaking kidding me?" "Say, Senior, why not? He's a phoenix. A god," Zhu Yao said with a serious look, though it was a black one. Ho, Senior, you must be joking. Do you think I won't dare to beat you up just because your cultivation is high? Forget it." Zhu Yao curled her lips and changed her tone. "Then I'll gift it to you." After saying that, she turned around and left. The stall owner's face was in a mess. "Someone come. There's a beast here who threw away a child." Seeing that the other party had already left the town, the child who was still obediently sitting on the stall earlier suddenly stood up and followed after her. After this ruckus, half of the anger in Zhu Yao's heart had dissipated. As expected, bullying people was the best way to reduce stress. After calming down, Zhu Yao felt that she could now speak calmly. After leaving the town, she hurried for a while, and then began to meditate at the side. This meditation lasted for 4 hours, and her cultivation was actually faintly showing signs of breaking through. It seemed like she would be able to become a gold deity very soon. Turning to look at the child who was following not too far away, she sighed. "Speak, what's going on? While my emotions were stable, Ewing suddenly raised his head, as though he could not believe that she would actually speak. His eyes reddened, and his eyes shone with tears. With a thick nasal voice, he called out, "Big sis, Yao." The frustration in the depths of Zhu Yao's heart once again returned. Taking a deep breath, she continued, "You were the one in that egg the entire time?" A hint of panic flashed across his face, but he still nodded. "Amen. When did you get together with Sesame?" Zhu Yao's eyes turned cold. Frowning, she said, "You two worked together to lie to me?" "No, no." He grew even more flustered and shook his head strongly, looking as though he was about to cry. Zhu Yao took a deep breath, and the depths of her heart began to burn with anger. If Sesame had not intentionally left the egg for her, she really would not have connected the egg with Ewing. That was why she intentionally left the egg there, until it rolled over on its own. Only then did she confirm her guess. Initially, when Sesame woke up and saw her body, its first reaction was actually not to wait at the Lightning Divine Hall for its Hall Master to return. She found it strange that he had taken her all the way to the demonic immortal continent for treatment. In the upper realm, no one's cultivation base could surpass the Master and the Tower Master. She was actually able to make Sesame bring her there without any hesitation. Furthermore, Sesame had clearly said it. Because of Gong Lan, it did not have any beastie friends. But he said he had a friend in the south. He knew how to cross the realm tide. Wasn't this contradictory? Presumably, the person it was going to the demonic immortal continent to find and the so-called friend it had was Ewing. To think that she had spent so much effort to help it pick up girls, but it had actually teamed up with others to deceive her. Little ungrateful white-eyed beast. But what she couldn't understand was, since Ewing had always been in that egg, all of this would no longer be valid. Wasn't the egg always with Sesame? What's with that trap? She suddenly thought of the black cylinder that had protected her when she crossed the realm tide. "Big sis Yao." Ewing raised his head and replied a little anxiously, "I want to look for my sister, but I couldn't find him. That's why I wanted to cross over to the celestial realm. I knew that no matter what happened, Big Sister would definitely go and find the Exalted One." His expression darkened, as if he felt a little powerless. "It's just that there was a problem when we crossed over." Zhu Yao's heart sank as she faintly guessed the result. She could not help but feel a little heartache, but she immediately reminded herself not to be soft-hearted. And then, seeing that her face was still calm, Ewing lowered his head in disappointment. Glancing at the corner of her robes, he clenched his fists tightly by his side, and only then did he hold back from reaching out to grab her. "There's a limit to how long the world-crossing door can remain open. I didn't make it in time, so I had no choice but to leave my body. My soul has come up, while my body and Sesame have been left in the lower realm. That's why you turned into an egg. Did the Protoss have an emergency mechanism for injuries? Back in Yiling's dungeon, the stupid dragon that crushed her to death was also injured and turned back into an egg to recuperate. Why did Ewing know this move as well?" She finally understood why Ewing, who was still a 5-elemental hybrid spirit root, could cross over to the immortal world. Most probably, it wasn't because he had turned into a devil, but because not only did he possess Xiaobai's memories, he had even regained his identity as a god. Hence, the one that came out of the egg earlier was a phoenix. "That mechanism that protected me from the realm tide was formed from your divine soul?" Amen. He obediently nodded. It was no wonder why Sesame insisted on going to the demonic immortal continent. Ewing had yet to fuse with his body. "Why did Sesame help you? When did the two of you hook up?" "Sesame, you traitor, just you wait." "In spiritual realm," he honestly replied. "It wanted to find you as well, so, the two of you hooked up. Apui, you're all in cahoots with each other." Sesame had long known that Ewing was the one in the egg, yet he had been hiding it from her. His guts had grown big. Taking a deep breath, she looked at Ewing, whose face was still filled with anxiety. Only then did the flames in the depths of her heart slowly subside. She clenched her fists, suppressing the tumbling emotions in her heart. Actually, even she herself did not know how she should face Ewing. Of course she was angry. Even when she thought about it now, she could not help but want to hang this troublemaker up and give him a good beating. Especially when he was in spiritual realm, the things he did simply chilled her to the bone. Hence, after she returned from the modern era, she subconsciously did not want to bother about his matters. Even when Sesame intentionally brought it up, she did not want to hear about it. However, in the depths of her heart, she understood that there were some things that could not be avoided. With his extremely crooked personality, he would come looking for her sooner or later. Yuing, I will never forgive you. Zhu Yao looked straight at him. I will never forgive you for the things you did in spiritual realm. His face instantly paled to the point where not a single trace of life could be seen. I will never forgive you for wanting to kill little Wimp for the rest of my life. He opened his mouth, as though he wanted to say something. However, he was unable to say anything. Zhu Yao frowned. She stood up and walked towards him. She squatted down, looked at his eyes which were about to be filled with despair, and said with emphasis on every word, Are you sad? Chapter 347. He bit his lips, and his little body began to tremble. However, Zhu Yao did not wish for him to continue running away. Yuing, no, Xiaobai. It's time for you to grow up. I've said it many times. You should grow up. It was time to grow up. You have to walk out on your own. I used to think I could pull you out. But then, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. I can't forgive your mistakes without a limit. So, even if you follow me for the rest of my life, I will never be able to trust you. Because I'm afraid that after I forgive you this time, you'll do something even more chilling next time. Big Sis Yao, I was wrong. He raised his head, his eyes filled with panic, regret, and deep despair. He wanted to grab the corner of her clothes, but he was afraid that she would get even angrier. I don't want to hear this. Zhu Yao shook her head. I can no longer differentiate if what you're saying is true or false. But Yuing, her expression turned cold, and in an instant, she released a killing intent that he had never seen from her before. If there comes a day, you do the same thing again. I don't mind killing you myself. His figure trembled, as though he could no longer stand. Yet, he could not stop Zhu Yao's increasingly heartless words. So, from now on, I won't rule out the possibility of using the greatest malice to predict all of your actions. You are no longer my younger brother, and I don't want to be your older sister anymore. Sister. His voice was filled with so much despair that it seemed like it would scatter at any moment. Zhu Yao took a deep breath. Yuing, you've disappointed me too much. Disappointed to the point where I'm already in despair. I really know my wrongs. Big Sis Yao, you have to believe me. Zhu Yao shook her head. If you really knew that you were wrong, you wouldn't have begged me to believe you, but rather, you would have made me believe you. After explaining things clearly to Yuing, Zhu Yao ignored him. She didn't know what he was thinking. He was still following her silently like a ghost, but he was no longer the thin and weak child from before. He had returned to the heaven-defying appearance of Xiao Bai from before. Zhu Yao was so angry that she wanted to scratch his face. She couldn't chase him away, and even if she scolded him, he wouldn't talk back. If she were to beat him, she couldn't beat him. He couldn't afford to be injured. She walked for half a day until the sun was high in the sky. Only then did he stop. Even though he was a Xin immortal now, walking was no problem for her. But even if she wasn't tired, she would still get tired. After walking like a machine for half a day, her lazy bones didn't want to move at all. He thought about where he could find a fellow immortal or a demon to hitch a ride with. In the end, he did not manage to catch a ride as the ambulance arrived. Looking at the red and white figures flying over from the horizon, Zhu Yao suddenly felt her entire body was filled with energy. Master, you've finally come to pick me up. The moment Yu Yin landed on the ground, he coincidentally received a full hug. Yu Yao, after sizing up his stupid disciple for a moment, he realized that not only was she fine, furthermore, his cultivation had risen as well. Only then did he feel relieved. See, I told you that little grand disciple would be fine. Eugene waved the fan in his hand and smiled with his eyes curved into crescents. She has my tracking technique on her. How could I lose her? Look at how anxious you are. You even dragged me here to look for him immediately. Even if she didn't come, she would come by herself in a few days. Hey, listen to me. Was there a need to hug him so tightly? Didn't he see the two single dogs standing next to him? Wait, two of them. This is? Eugene looked at the black-clothed man not far away and could not help but be startled. Earlier, he actually did not sense his existence at all. Yu Yin noticed Yu Ying at the back as well and subconsciously hugged Zhu Yao a little tighter. His expression instantly turned cold. When did he come to the higher realm? Yu Ying, however, still stood there blankly. He did not reply nor did he move, and simply looked straight at Zhu Yao. Master. Zhu Yao pulled the person in front of her and did not explain either. Let's return. Yu Yin frowned and did not ask any further. Nodding his head, he flew up and brought his disciple back. Hey, wait for me. The corner of Eugene's lips twitched. What's with this situation? Why did he suddenly leave? He once again looked at the black-clothed man. Would it kill him to explain? Why were the two of them ignoring him? Letting out a long sigh, he had no choice but to follow after them with a resentful look. In the next moment, Yu Ying's figure instantly disappeared. With her master's luxurious VIP transportation tool, in less than 7 minutes, they had already returned to Lightning Divine Hall. Not far behind them, Yu Ying was still following them silently. Zhu Yao could not be bothered with him either, as she followed her master and sat down on a stone chair in the courtyard. Yu Yin immediately reached out his hand to check her pulse, yet he intentionally asked a series of strange questions. Even Eugene had taken her pulse for a long time. What's wrong? Zhu Yao was a little confused. Yu Yin was silent for a moment. With a wave of his hand, a divine sword appeared on the table. Strange patterns were engraved on it, however. The body of the sword was currently cracking apart inch by inch, and the divine energy was dissipating. It even looked a little familiar. Isn't this the divine sword I possessed? Why did its rank drop? She recalled that it was still a second-rank divine sword back then. In its current state, it could not even be considered as a first-rank divine sword. In no time, it would turn into a piece of scrap metal. Back then, when I took this sword out of my storage mystic artifact, it slowly began to change. First, a few strange patterns appeared, and then, the divine energy dissipated and shattered. Yu Yin frowned and said with a sunken voice, In the first place, your soul was this sword's sword spirit. Your master thought that if there were any problems with the sword, it might be because of you. Looking at you now, it seems like you're fine. Oh, it was no wonder the two of them were so nervous. Zhu Yao carefully sized up that front vest, which was about to turn into scrap metal. Flipping the sword over, she saw that the patterns on the other side were rather neat, and they were gathered at the center, forming a row of tiny symbols. She focused her eyes on it, and in an instant, the corner of her lips twitched. It's not just fine, Eugene continued. Little grand disciple was still a mortal back then. Now that she's back, she's already a profound deity paragon. This sword, however, is more or less destroyed. It's as though the cultivation in the sword was transferred to my body. Zhu Yao automatically continued. The two of them were startled. Zhu Yao lowered the sword with a darkened expression. That's right. She finally knew how the cultivation in her body came to be. Why did she suddenly become a profound deity? So it was all because of this strange sword. Because a row of words was clearly written on the sword. Data transfer in progress, please wait. 70%. Why the hell could cultivation be transferred? And it was even transferred wirelessly. Clearly, she couldn't even receive roaming signals in the demonic immortal continent. So why the hell was she able to receive wireless signals? Suddenly, she felt her entire body lighten, and the sound of something being broken resounded in her mind. In the next moment, the divine energy in her entire body instantly increased by more than a fold, and even her dantian was filled to the brim. Little grand disciple, your cultivation has reached the level of a gold deity. Eugene's face was filled with shock. What happened earlier? Why did her cultivation suddenly increase just by sitting there? Zhu Yao silently glanced at the sword. As expected, the row of words on it had changed. Data transfer in progress. Please wait. 80%. It's actually still being transferred. Hey, that's enough. Did you switch off the Bluetooth? In the past few days, just what happened to you? Yu Yan asked, however. His eyes inadvertently swept towards Yu Ying, who did not have much of a presence. And how did you leave Lightning Divine Hall back then? I went to the demonic immortal continent. Zhu Yao explained the situation of her trip to the demonic immortal continent in the past few days, as well as her conjecture about her sudden increase in cultivation. Naturally, there was also the matter with Sesame, that white-eyed beast. After listening to her, the two of them were a little dumbfounded. They had heard of humans cultivating with humans, deities cultivating with deities, and humans cultivating with deities. However, they had never heard of a sword and a human being able to transfer their cultivation to each other. Just what in the world was this lady made of? This matter is really strange. However, since little grand disciple already has cultivation, her soul must have stabilized. Eugene said with a sunken voice. In the future, she will no longer casually leave her body. Just in case, she has to bring along some soul-suppressing items with her. Makes sense. She did not want to switch avatars again. Just as she was about to plunder a few divine artifacts, a figure suddenly scuttled out. Quickly brushing past her, he picked up the sword on the table, and without stopping, he had already taken to the air, flying towards the direction where they entered the Lightning Divine Hall earlier. Zhu Yao was given a fright. When she regained her senses, that sword thief had already flown far away, and the main point was that the figure was a little familiar. Wait a minute, Aunt Shui, there's a formation over there. Before she could even finish, several tins of lightning bolts descended at the same time, instantly blasting him back. The fragrance of roasted meat drifted in the air. Amen. It was even a little burnt. Zhu Yao. Yu Yin. Eugene. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Didn't this guy know that the formation would automatically close after entering? She quickly walked towards the place where the roasted meat fell. Before she could even approach, Shui had already regained his senses. His figure flashed, and with a head full of burnt hair, he looked at them with a guarded expression. He tightly held onto the divine sword in his hand, and said with a little panic, "Divine Sword Maiden, don't be afraid. I will bring you out of here. This old man's cultivation is really powerful. They're just high deities. I'll show you how I beat them up." Zhu Yao, you've already turned into roasted meat. Just where did your confidence come from? Divine Sword Maiden, can you reply to me? Why aren't you replying? Shui's expression instantly changed. He no longer cared about the three people in front of him and forcefully shook the sword in his hand. What's wrong with you, girlie? Don't scare me, hey. Wake up. He shook it for a long while, but when he saw that there was still no reaction from the sword, his eyes instantly reddened. His face was filled with sorrow, and he began to roar out hysterically. Girlie, what's wrong with you? Don't die. Didn't we agree that when you turn back into a human, we'll live a carefree life together in the mortal world and share the prosperity of the divine realm? Who agreed with you? Flip's table. Can this bastard's delusional illness ever be cured? Master, listen to my explanation. I didn't do anything. Yu Yan's expression turned cold, and he silently pulled his disciple into his embrace. I suddenly feel so irritable. What should I do if I get struck by lightning? Chapter 348. In an instant, Shui turned around furiously and glared fiercely at the three of them. Just what did you beasts do to my divine sword maiden? Beastly one. Who's yours? Crash. Beast number 2 Yu Yin. He had already done what he could. Animal number 3 Eugene was speechless. He was just an innocent bystander. Divine sword maiden, I will avenge you right now. Shui kept that broken divine sword, summoned his weapon, and stared at the three of them with a furious expression. None of you should even think of escaping today. So, just where did he get his confidence from, hey? Shui, calm down. Actually, I am. Shut up. He glared at her coldly. I don't want to hear your nonsense. Fuck. He swung his sword horizontally, and his murderous aura filled the air. Which one of you three wants to go first? Step forward. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She turned to exchange glances with her own master, and then both of them took a step back. Eugene was left speechless. Good luck, great-great-grandmaster. Zhu Yao made a cheering pose. Why me? What happened to the love from the same sect? Sigh. Who asked the other party to be alone? It's not like the two of us can bully him. You have the perfect number of people. Zhu Yao chuckled. Flips table. A single dog isn't human. Capable people do more work. Remember, friendship comes first, competition comes second. Don't overdo it. Go, Pikachu. What the hell is Pikachu? Shui, however, had already flown over to attack. With a swing of his sword, a large amount of icicles broke out from the ground. However, Eugene did not even move and simply waved his hand. Immediately, the icicles broke into pieces and turned into water. Shui once again materialized tens of thousands of spiritual swords, which came crashing down from all directions. However, the moment it landed on the ground, it suddenly turned around and attacked Zhu Yao. So he wanted to launch a sneak attack, but he seemed to have chosen the wrong target. Yu Yin frowned, releasing the pressure from his entire body. Forget about the innumerable spiritual swords. Even Shui himself was startled. He was pressed to the ground. If he couldn't move anymore, he would be killed instantly. Sigh, we clearly agreed on a PK. Yet, you insist on taking on 3 people at once. Why bother? Yu Yin took 2 steps forward, and just as he was about to retrieve that divine sword from his bosom, Shui, who was still lying on the ground earlier, suddenly cracked his lips into a smile. Zhu Yao suddenly had a bad premonition. A gust of wind blew behind her. She turned around to look. Unbeknownst to her, Shui had already appeared behind her. A clone. Everything happened too quickly. Before she could react, Shui's weapon had already slashed down towards her. She could even see the cold glint on his sword and the surging black gas behind him. Zhu Yao's heart trembled, and she immediately shouted out, Lunar Shadow, stop! In the next moment, a lightning phoenix immediately charged out from her body, and with a single claw, it threw Shui onto the ground. The lightning radiance on his body once again bombarded Shui with a crackling sound, and the black miasma that filled the sky earlier had already disappeared without a trace. She instantly heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. It was fortunate that Ewing had retracted it, otherwise, Shui's soul would have already dispersed. Good my ass. Shui was suppressed by her sword intent to the point where he could not even move, so he had no choice but to start shooting his mouth off. What kind of man are you to bully me with numbers? If you have the guts, let this daddy go. If you have the guts, why don't you fight me one-on-one? So what if you're from the Lightning Divine Hall? This daddy isn't afraid of you. This daddy wants to avenge Divine Sword Maiden. You lot are basically not this daddy's match. If you have the guts, then come at me one at a time. His main body and clone were happily scolding as they did so. It was as if he wasn't the one who had just given up on a one-on-one fight and switched to a sneak attack. Do you have any shame? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. With a thought, the lightning phoenix tightened its claws, and in an instant, that clone dissipated into 2 wisps of smoke, returning to Shui's body. He could be considered to be smart. He had long known that he couldn't defeat Eugene and her master, so his target from the very beginning was her. He had long set up a clone art here, and the moment her master left her side, he would launch his attack. However, he probably never expected that she would be able to react so quickly and summon her sword intent, right? Zhu Yao could not help but turn to look at the figure that was 2 to 3 steps away from her. Taking a deep breath, she turned her head back. Shui was no longer able to move. Zhu Yao immediately took out the former avatar in his hands. As expected, the percentage on the sword had already increased to 90%. Just earlier, she had directly turned from a gold deity to a heavy deity. What are you trying to do? Shui was flustered, yet he just couldn't move. Return Divine Sword Maiden to me. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. Raising her sword, she knocked it on his head. Are you blind? Can't we just talk nicely? Look carefully. I'm this sword. Ah, what did she mean? Shui was instantly dumbfounded. Your divine sword maiden? Amen, she nodded. I've already turned back into a human. Don't try to lie to me. Shui instantly grew excited and said with a disgusted look, Humph, how can my divine sword maiden look like you? She definitely has a beautiful figure, peerless looks, a pair of sturdy legs, powerful arms, and a heart filled with unrepentant infatuation towards me. She can even linger with me to the ends of the world. Hey, you've lost your integrity. Believe it or not, in any case, I'm her. Zhu Yao couldn't be bothered with him as she turned around and walked over. Hey, don't go. Return my sword to me. He was still unwilling to give up. Zhu Yao glanced at the number 95% on the sword and tried to guide it with her divine energy. As expected, a large amount of energy surged into her body. The speed was so fast, it was as though she had instantly canceled Bluetooth, plugged in an internet cable, and directly transferred the energy. The number on the sword went from 95% to 96%, 97%, 98%. Finally, the words flashed, transfer complete. Zhu Yao instantly leveled up to a high deity. The sword also began to shatter with a few cracking sounds. Divine Sword Maiden. Shui's face was filled with sadness. It was unknown where he got the strength from, but he suddenly charged over and snatched the sword from her hands. Return it to me. Wait a minute. Don't move. Zhu Yao was unable to stop him in time. The moment Shui touched the sword, he was suddenly sent flying. The rebound was so strong that Shui instantly fainted. The sword, which was initially thought to be about to shatter, suddenly shone with a bright red light. Yu Yin realized something was amiss as well, and his expression sank. He wanted to step forward, only to realize that his entire body was immobilized. Eugene included, both of them were frozen on the spot. Zhu Yao did not know what was going on either, but the sword in her hands began to peel off layer by layer. The sword, which was originally half the width of a palm, became as thick as a finger, and its entire body was flashing with a blood-like red light. The buzzing of the sword rang incessantly in her ears. Out of nowhere, a resonance could be felt from the depths of her heart, as though even her heart was beating along with the sound. With a thought, the sword intent which she had yet to retract earlier soared into the sky, and a long cry pierced through the skies. After circling in the sky for an entire round, it suddenly entered the sword in her hands. In the next instant, her hands were empty, and the red light instantly entered the center of her forehead. The oppressive feeling of not being able to resist instantly disappeared as well. Yu Yin pulled his disciple over and began to inspect her from head to toe. The incident earlier was too strange. Even he was unable to resist that light, and he could not help but feel a little flustered. How is it? Master, I'm fine. Zhu Yao herself was a little confused. But, in my divine sense, there seems to be an additional sword. Yu Yin was startled. He frowned. Life artifact? Life artifact? Was it the same as her master's god's artifact? With a thought, a red light suddenly flashed, and a completely red sword appeared in her hands. Different from the other weapons she used, this red sword seemed to be connected to her mind, as though it was a part of her body. Why can't I see through the grade of this weapon? Eugene curiously walked over as well. He looked at the red sword in his little grand disciple's hands, and the more he looked at it, the more confused he became. This sword actually did not have any aura, as though it did not exist. Yet, it faintly carried an indescribable pressure, causing people to not dare to look straight at it. Yu Yin solemnly said, "This sword is neither spiritual nor divine, nor is it a god's artifact. Then what in the world is it?" The fact that her avatar had turned into her life artifact was already mysterious enough. Why did he have to make it so complicated? Yu Yin and Eugene exchanged glances, and both shook their heads. They did not know either. Little grand disciple, being able to find a life artifact is already an extremely great opportunity. Eugene smiled. He reached out his hand, wanting to stroke her head and console her. However, he received an ice gaze attack from the side, and had no choice but to weakly retract his claws. Don't worry. This sword is connected to your mind, and it will only aid your cultivation. Although she was already a high deity. That's great. Zhu Yao was at ease. Actually, she had wanted a weapon since a long time ago. The days without a means of transportation were already tiring enough, you know? Furthermore, this was her life artifact, and it would exist in her divine sense in the future. Even if she changed avatars, it would still be bound to her. The days where she no longer needed to hitch a ride, just thinking about it made her a little excited. Although the color of the sword was a little strange, the blade was a little stingy, its attributes were a little unclear, and even the 2 words written on the blade were ugly. Wait a minute. Words? Zhu Yao took a closer look, and at the center of the blade, 2 bold song characters were written neatly, Patch. Her smiling face stiffened, and her expression instantly darkened. With a turn of her hand, she threw the sword onto the ground, as though she was venting her anger. She turned around and walked into the house. Realm Spirit, screw your grandpa. Shui fainted for 3 days before waking up. No matter what Zhu Yao said, he did not believe that she was that sword. Zhu Yao couldn't be bothered to explain either. Initially, she wanted to let him out of Lightning Divine Hall as he wished, but the disciplinary order of Grand Ancestral, Master Eugene unexpectedly lit up again. The one she sought help from was the Gold Deity practitioner who was chasing after Shui back then. And it wasn't just him. The entire Divine Realm was currently searching for Shui. Shui had always wanted to bring the Divine Sword and escape from this place. At this moment, Lightning Divine Hall was the safest. Little Grand Disciple, what do you think we should do? Eugene waved the disciplinary order in his hand that was flashing with the light of a formation. Ever since he was accidentally teleported away back then, he had changed all of his disciplinary orders, making them optional teleportation modes. Zhu Yao was silent for a moment, before she solemnly said, "Let him out of Lightning Divine Hall." Eugene blanked and was a little surprised. "I thought you would want to protect him. P.S. Thanks to my relative, Nangong Chung, for the Heshabi reward." Chapter 349. That's what I thought before. Zhu Yao frowned, because from how I see it, Shui did not do anything heinous. Although he was being chased by people who said that he was an evil immortal, I didn't really see him with my own eyes, so it was normal that I didn't resonate with him. On the contrary, as a weapon, Shui can be said to have taken good care of me. Although his mouth is a bit annoying, at least he didn't use me as an enemy. Then why did you? Eugene grew even more confused. Now that he has left Lightning Divine Hall, even if I don't find trouble with him, the various sects and clans would most likely not let him off easily. I believe his days aren't going to be easy either. You acting like this, then according to what you said, I should make him stay and protect him in the name of Lightning Divine Hall. Then, chase away all of those people who came looking for trouble with him, or kill them. Zhu Yao asked. Eugene frowned and did not reply. I know what you mean. I did want to help him in the beginning. Although we've only known each other for about 10 days, we can still be considered acquaintances. If he did not save her, it would indeed seem somewhat heartless. That's why I didn't stop you when you brought him back. Zhu Yao sighed. There was even an instant where I wanted to keep him in Lightning Divine Hall so that no one would be able to find him. However, even if I did that, Shui would still be Shui. He wouldn't change just because of that. The people who died in his hands would not live, and the sins he had committed could not be washed away. In fact, it might even get worse in the future. He would take more lives, and he would become even worse. Then, if I did protect him, I would be the executioner who handed him the knife. For every debt of blood he has, I will pay half of it. Shui indeed didn't do anything wrong to me, but he's certainly not a good person either. Zhu Yao said with a sunken voice, at least in the eyes of the various sects, and in the eyes of those who are pursuing after his life. It was possible that he was an evil immortal whose hands were stained with blood. This won't change just because he's nice to me. A mistake was a mistake. This would not change just because the motive was correct. Just like how a murderer would not be innocent just because he had saved someone, a rapist would not be forgiven just because the other party was his true love. Take that golden immortal as an example. He and his wife were innocent. However, Shui killed his wife over a cave dwelling. Even if this matter is unrelated to me, I cannot approve of his actions. Although the immortal world values strength above all else, I feel that the immortal world doesn't value strength at all. No one's life was more important than another's. Since he did it, he has to bear the consequences. Eugene let out a long sigh. You intend to hand him over to the immortal sex? I won't. Zhu Yao shook her head. I'm not a judge. I don't have the authority to judge whether a person is right or wrong. It's not just me. It was the same for the immortal sects. It was true that Shui had done many bad things, but among these deities who ascended, which of them could say that they had not done anything wrong at all? And which of them did not have their hands stained with blood? If they themselves were good at it, who could judge the rights and wrongs of others? Even the reason he came to chase after Shui this time is most likely not for the sake of justice in this world. Then Eugene was confused. Let's just leave the matter between them to their own quarrel. Since both sides aren't good people, I might as well not care about either. So, Tower Master, please let Shui leave. I will not protect him. I will help him bear the blood debt, because I do not wish to become an accomplice. I will not hand them over to the immortal sects either, because they do not have the qualifications to punish others. If Shui wants to hide, the immortal sects might not be able to find him. And if the immortal sects truly want to find him, they will definitely have a way. Time will prove everything, while I will only be myself. Eugene was stunned for a moment, before he suddenly laughed, and his laughter grew louder. Little grand disciple, you really surprise me. While Yu Yin was not around, he reached out and forcefully rubbed her head. For some reason, he could faintly see something that did not exist in the entire divine realm from her. Something called initial heart. Though it was a little silly, but unexpectedly, it made people feel envious. Zhu Yao awkwardly took a step back and slapped his hand away. He did not mind, simply shaking his head. Casting an art, he waved his hand. In an instant, the heavy lightning clouds surrounding the lightning divine hall dispersed, and formations opened up one after another. In less than an instant, a blue figure turned into a ray of light and flew out. It was Shui. It seems like even if you want to save him, he can't wait to leave as well? Eugene said with a laugh. Most probably, he will come looking for you to take revenge for that, divine sword maiden, in the future. If that's the case, will you still insist on not interfering? Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? The only thing I can do is to maintain my current self and not be changed by this world. Zhu Yao glanced at him and suddenly smiled. She joked. If everyone persevered, they might have already changed the world. Who knows? Eugene was stunned. He suddenly felt his heart stirring, as though he had just seen the clouds. Before he could figure out what it was, suddenly, the heaven and earth shook, and the entire lightning divine hall began to shake. Rays of dazzling light shone on the peak, instantly illuminating the entire floating mountain with a myriad of colors. Lightning Divine Tower. Eugene's expression changed, and in a flash, he disappeared. Zhu Yao was a little dumbfounded as well, looking at the strange light that suddenly descended from the sky. The light had all sorts of colors. This is a rainbow descending from the sky? This light did not seem to possess any killing power, yet it felt warm when it shone on her body. Why did it look a little familiar? Before she could ponder over it, with a sudden hum, her life origin divine sword suddenly flew out and circled around her. When she reached out, it returned to her hand. No matter how she looked at it, it seemed to be a little excited. The light is being emitted by the lightning divine tower. Her master came out from the house as well and raised his head to look at the sky. Something must have happened. Wait here, don't run around. Wait a minute. Zhu Yao pulled onto her master. Let's go together. Yu Yin hesitated for a moment before hugging onto his disciple and flying towards the mountain peak. The moment they arrived at the mountain peak, They were stunned by the tower in front of them. The body of the tower that was initially as white as jade began to open up from the bottom. As though a layer of skin had been peeled off, it began to slowly rise, revealing a multicolored glass-like light within. Zhu Yao had seen the opening of the Lightning Divine Tower in the past, but this time, the tower was opened up a little too much. The white body of the tower was constantly rising. At a distance of 7 to 8 meters visible to the naked eye, it had already completely turned into a multicolored glass-like look. Great-great-grandmaster. She could not help but call out to Eugene, who was standing in front with a heavy expression. I don't know the reason either, he sighed and said. I did not activate the Floor Master's divine revelation, yet the Lightning Divine Tower opened up on its own. And the way it opened up is it was too strange. If the current Lightning Divine Hall was considered to have opened the door to the tower, then the previous one could only be considered as digging a hole, right? The entire body of the tower looked as though it was shedding its skin. The white part of the tower was becoming lesser, and it was becoming more and more dazzling. Currently, it was no longer just the Lightning Divine Hall. Even the entire forest below was illuminated by the light. The three of them were dumbfounded, as they did not know if this was good or bad. They could only watch as the white part of the tower rose higher and higher before disappearing into the horizon, revealing the multicolored body of the tower and a gigantic bug. Why did the word bug was written on the body of the tower? What? The Lightning Divine Tower was a bug as well? It clearly wasn't there earlier. Was he telling her to push the tower? Did he think this was an MMORPG, hey? Yu Yin, who was at the side, suddenly turned to look at her, and his grip on her hand tightened. Zhu Yao was startled, and then she fiercely widened her eyes. Master, you can't be, Amen, he nodded. It can't be, right? Why was her master able to see it as well? What did the realm spirit mean? Ting. Suddenly, a row of red words flashed in front of her. The holiday is over. Brave young lady, begin your final journey. Holiday? So the reason why she had not seen any bugs earlier was because she was still on holiday. Then why did he ask her to change her avatar again and again? Who the hell would wear work clothes every day while on holiday, hey? Zhu Yao was instantly enraged. She really wanted to dig out a certain shameless person from behind the red words. Ting. The red light in front of her flashed, and a row of words changed. Congratulations on completing the Origin Code of Law's mission. Reward. Little bullshit expert. Reward. Pooey. Consider me blind. What did this mean? Was he sure he wasn't scolding her? Was the little bullshit expert referring to the matter with Shueli? Ting. Before she could even react, that row of words changed once again. Activating final mission. Content. Tower push. Clear mission reward. Plain passage permit. Only 2. Nah. Zhu Yao could not hold back for a moment and had almost crashed into the red words. She fiercely widened her eyes, confirming that she was not seeing things. Not only did he inform her of the mission in advance, he even clearly stated the final mission. The main point was that clear mission reward, plain passage permit. She wasn't seeing things, right? Master, can you pinch me? Please tell her that she wasn't dreaming. Yu Yin tightened his grip on her hand. Though he had seen the bug word on the tower, Yu Yin did not see the red words. Seeing his disciple's nervous look, he could not help but pull her closer to him and asked with a sunken voice, Have you decided? Zhu Yao nodded. No matter if this was the final mission or not, even if it was for the plain passage permit, she had to deduce this tower. Yu Yin sighed. Reaching out his hand, he habitually stroked her head and softly said, Your master will accompany you. Amen. Zhu Yao hugged her own master. This time, they would definitely not separate. I wonder what's the reason behind this situation. Eugene studied it for a moment, yet he was unable to see anything. I think it's best if we return. Where are they? He looked around, but the two of them were nowhere to be seen. A cold breeze blew past. He turned to look at the Lightning Divine Tower that had its door wide open. As a floor master who had guarded the tower for tens of thousands of years, he suddenly had a bad premonition. He remembered. Little grand disciples' cultivation had reached the level of a high deity as well. May I ask, can I scold people? The moment she entered the tower, Zhu Yao's vision was occupied by darkness. Everything in her surroundings had already disappeared. Her heart panicked, and she subconsciously looked for her master. Yet, she could not see anything. Her mind, however, was like a horse lantern, flashing through everything from the first day she transmigrated into this world. Not a single little detail was left out, including some things that she herself had already forgotten, or those things that she had forgotten. She was dazed for an instant. The things that she could not figure out all this while. Suddenly, she understood everything. All of the clues connected together. The panic in the depths of her heart instantly disappeared. She looked at her surroundings with a little amusement. She actually took so long to guess it. She could be considered stupid. She took a deep breath. Realm Spirit. The moment her voice fell, the dark space instantly flashed. A familiar QQ chat window hung in the space, and it was still the same familiar interface. Realm Spirit. Yo, young maiden. I missed you so much. How was your holiday? Did you have fun? Did you bring me a present? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. As expected, this guy was asking for a beating. He even dared to mention that ridiculous holiday. She took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in the depths of her heart. Glancing at the chat window with narrowed eyes, she sighed. Are you sure you want to keep talking to me like this? Realm Spirit. The screen did not react for a long while. Only after a long while did the next sentence appear. Realm Spirit. You knew? You never wanted to hide it from me from the very start, right? Zhu Yao curled her lips. Realm Spirit. Realm Spirit. Back when you came looking for me, you had already clearly told me your identity. Realm Spirit. The spirit of the three realms. The moment her voice fell, the chat window instantly disappeared in a flash. Even the entire space had changed, as though a layer of curtains had been lifted. In an instant, an absolutely beautiful scenery appeared in her surroundings. Beneath her feet was a sea of flowers, and in the distance was a celestial mountain-blessed land. Floating in the air were celestial peaks shrouded in divine energy, and there was even a waterfall that looked like silver silk flowing down. The air was filled with a soothing scent. This scenery was even more beautiful than anything she had seen in the divine realm. And at a place 5 steps in front of her, a figure was slowly appearing. His clothes were as white as snow, and he had a face that could topple the world. With a slight smile, everything in the surroundings seemed to have lost its color. He walked over with a smile, and the surrounding flowers and plants automatically separated, opening up a path for him. They even bent their branches, as though they were silently worshipping him. Her figure was imprinted in his ink-like eyes, and he reached out a hand towards her. I wish, before he could finish. Zhu Yao grabbed onto his hand and casually pulled it. Turning her body, she pressed down on the back of his head, and with a forceful smack, she pressed him into the mud on the ground. Aya, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. The flowers and plants at the side instantly moved a few meters away. Why the hell did you turn into my master's appearance? Don't think that I won't dare to beat you up just because you turned into this. I have tolerated you for a very long time. Chapter 350. Realm Spirit crawled on the ground like a tortoise for a long time. His transcendent temperament suddenly disappeared. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Zhu Yao could not help but give him another kick before letting go. He sat up with his face covered in mud and looked at Zhu Yao with a resentful look. Yao Yao, how can you treat me like this? Shut up. Seeing him make such a shameless expression with that face, her image in her heart was crumbling. Okay? She pinched his face and pulled again. Hurry up and change this face back. Ouch, 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 ouch. Realm Spirit hissed, but he couldn't avoid her claws. You can't blame me for this. I'm like this because of you. Zhu Yao's hands paused. What do you mean? Don't you already know about my main body? Yao Yao? Realm Spirit smiled and said, I don't have a specific appearance to begin with, so the me you see now is only the most beautiful appearance in your heart. She was stunned and instantly understood what he was talking about. The most beautiful image in her heart was naturally her master. She sized him up from head to toe, and then she couldn't help but doubt herself. Are you really the spirit of the three realms? His eyes curved into a smile. That's right. Beauty, you actually guessed it so quickly. You're so smart. As expected of the one I chose. Cut it out. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. Yet in the depths of her heart, she was still a little depressed. So everything you said to me earlier was all true. When you first came to this world, you said that there was a problem with your world. Was that what you meant?
Yes.
He nodded. Zhu Yao instantly heaved a sigh of relief. The matters that she had not been able to think clearly about before were all cleared up in an instant, including why did he have such great abilities? Why did she always have some strange golden fingers on her? Why did the River of Forgetfulness, by Yuan, and the Wood Spirit know him so well? Why did he say that he could even change the heavenly Tao? The spirits of the three realms were formed by the spirits of the three realms. He was this world, and the entire three realms was his body. Even the heavenly Tao and karmic luck were just a part of him, so he could naturally change them. Since you're the three realms, it should be easy for you to fix those bugs. Why do you want me to change it? He shook his head. Yao Yao, I can deduce everything in this world. I can clearly see everyone's path, but I don't know how to cure it. I know where the bug is, but I don't know how to fix it. What do you mean? Zhu Yao was a little confused. Doctors don't treat themselves, Realm Spirit said gravely. In other words, even though he was the one who was sick, there was nothing he could do? But there are so many people in the three realms? Why did you drag me all the way here from another plane? The living beings of the three realms are all trapped within. They can't even see their own problems clearly. How could it be repaired? No one in the world could do it. But you are different. His eyes lit up. You come from another plane. What you know and think is very different from what we know. You can see things that we can't. Why me? Zhu Yao frowned. I'm not some incredible figure, nor do I possess any world-shocking talent. Even in our world, I'm just an ordinary person without any special characteristics. There were plenty of them on the streets. If you only wanted someone from another dimension to help you check for loopholes, wouldn't it be better to choose someone more outstanding? Why did you choose me? Realm Spirit retracted his smile and looked straight into her eyes. He said with an especially serious tone, Because we're friends. So you specialize in screwing over your friends? Yao Yao, I believe in our friendship. Of course, there's an even more important point. He said gravely, You have beliefs and principles that are firmer than anyone else, and they have never wavered. No matter how long you've been in the three realms, you've always maintained your original intentions. So, you're the most suitable candidate. Then why didn't you tell me all of this right from the start? Zhu Yao frowned. If he really treated her as a friend, why did he have to hide it from her? Because, he sighed, I wanted you to see this world clearly. Only when you personally understand everything will you be able to find the most suitable method to fix it. Indeed, if she knew that Realm Spirit was the three realms right from the start, then she would most likely only give him some suggestions to fix it. She would not put herself in his shoes to understand this world deeply. Just like a game, only by understanding this game deeply would she be able to find the specific method to fix it. Then what's with this tower-pushing quest? This can be considered as the final map. He said gravely, As long as you reach the top of the tower, you will be able to understand everything about me. When that time comes, will truly be the time to fix it. Zhu Yao was startled. Truly fix it? Haven't I already fixed a lot of bugs? No, everything has yet to begin. He shook his head, and his smile grew even brighter. When you see everything clearly, I will hand all the decisions to you, and you will be my final hope, my friend. What do you mean? What final hope? Zhu Yao wanted to clarify, but his figure grew fainter and fainter. Even the entire space seemed to be fading. I have always believed in you, my friend. Wait a minute. Clarify. Zhu Yao grabbed onto his hand. only to be met with a pair of familiar eyes. His face was still the same, but his aura was completely different. What's wrong? The person in front of her reached out his hand to stroke her head, carrying a calming feeling. Master, she had returned. No need to be afraid. Yu however, thought that she was too nervous and pulled her closer. Your master is here. Only then did Zhu Yao realize that her surroundings had already changed. Green mountains and clear waters, and she could not see the end of it. It was no different from the divine realm. This is the inside of the tower? Wasn't the map a little too big? This should be the lower 10 floors of the lightning divine tower. Yu Yin said gravely. Master once said that the lowest level of cultivation in the lightning divine tower is a high deity. We have to be careful. Oh, Zhu Yao nodded. Looking around, she did not see any human figures. Though, not far behind her, a black light flashed, and Yuing appeared behind her as well. Knowing that he would follow, Zhu Yao frowned and continued to ignore him. What do we do now? Even if they wanted to push down the tower, they did not know where to start. Yu Yin suddenly pulled out a golden-colored talisman. Teacher had once said, if I were to enter the lightning divine tower, I would not be able to enter it. You can use this to contact him. Grandmaster. Zhu Yao's eyes shone. So we can look for an organization. You should have said so earlier. Hurry, hurry, hurry. He formed a hand seal. He immediately activated the talisman. There was a flash of golden light, and in the next moment, the talisman burst into flames and turned into ashes. What's going on? It seems like Master has already entered the upper 10 floors. Yu Yin sighed. Zhu Yao could faintly hear it. Searching for the organization. Failed? Prompt. Let's wait and see first. Yu Yin had no other choice either. After all, everything here was simply too foreign to him. He could only take one step at a time. The two of them turned around and flew forward. Zhu Yao was still wholeheartedly thinking about Realm Spirit's words earlier, so she did not pay much attention to her surroundings. They flew all the way out of the forest and came to a green grassland. Zhu Yao released her divine sense and scanned her surroundings, only to realize that this grassland was ridiculously large, and her divine sense was actually unable to cover it all. Wherever he swept his gaze, he did not see a single person. He could not even ask for directions. Suddenly, he hesitated whether he should continue forward or not. What should we do? He turned to look at his omnipotent master. Yu Yin frowned. This grassland is boundless, and there won't be any markets even if he's 1,000 kilometers away. It seems like we have to turn back. All right. She still had to turn back. Zhu Yao was mentally exhausted. Let's rest here for a moment before continuing our journey. There was no other way now. Zhu Yao turned around and sat down. She wondered what was going on in this tower. The population density was too high. After flying for so long, forget about humans, she did not even see a single living creature. Even on this boundless grassland, there were only a few long-eared bunnies. Zhu Yao turned to look at the rabbit that was currently squatting next to her, leisurely chewing on grass without any sense of danger. She wondered what breed it was, as it was actually not afraid of humans. And it even gave it such a common name like Little Bai, eh? A name. Zhu Yao rubbed her eyes. Was she seeing things? Why did she see something above the rabbit's head? 2 yellow words were written, Little Bai. And below the name, there was even a long red HP bar. As a qualified online game planner, she could not help but poke it. Above the rabbit's head, a line of words instantly floated out. Damage-1. She had a bad premonition. In the next moment, the 2 yellow words Little Bai on top of the rabbit's head instantly turned red. The rabbit, which was still wholeheartedly chewing on grass earlier, turned its head and unceremoniously bit her hand. Blood flowed like a fountain. Mommy! It hurts so much. Zhu Yao raised her hand and flung it, instantly flinging the rabbit away. However, a row of bone-deep wounds were left on her hand. What a terrifying rabbit! That rabbit landed on the ground with a puff and entered the grass. However, She could hear a few soft, swishing sounds coming from within, as red words little by popped out one after another like lights. That color seemed to be contagious, as it instantly occupied a large patch of grassland in front of them. She seemed to have accidentally pulled the aggro. Yu Yao? Yu Yen was just about to ask. Why? Run. Zhu Yao pulled up her own master, and then she madly flew towards the forest they came from. A series of rustling sounds could be heard from behind. When she turned to look, her little heart almost jumped out of fear. A large number of red names soared into the sky and were chasing after them. Are those rabbits? Why can rabbits fly? What you guys grow are ears, not wings, hey? The biology teacher will cry. Yu Yao. Yu Yen pulled his flustered and stupid disciple in the air and said with a solemn voice, Don't panic. Leave it to your master. Casting an art, he summoned a purple lightning bolt and sent it flying towards the back. Just as it was about to strike the crazy group of rabbits, suddenly, the rabbit at the very front flapped its ears, leaped up, and swallowed the lightning bolt. Swallowed. She weakly turned her head. Master, what happened to the promise of leaving it to you? With a wave of his hand, he summoned his life artifact. Hugging onto his disciple, he took a deep breath and said with a stern look, Run. With a speed 10 times faster than before, he turned around and flew away on his flying sword. Hence, on the first day they entered the tower, the master and disciple pair were chased by a group of little bai to the ends of the world. Chapter 351. Zhu Yao, whose biology teacher had died early, swore that she would never dare to easily provoke a bungee in this lifetime and would make a detour whenever she saw one. After all, not everyone had the precious and profound experience of being chased by a group of rabbits for 3 days and 3 nights. Up until now, she still did not know what kind of mutated breed those rabbits were, for they were actually immune to all kinds of spells. No matter how powerful her spells were, they would be able to swallow them in one gulp, and even Yu Ying's devilish chi attack was useless against them. The only difference was whether they swallowed in 2 gulps or 1 gulp, whether they swallowed 2 at once or 3 at once. More importantly, no matter if they fled into the forest, flew into the sky, or dove into the water, they would not be able to escape. Those rabbits were able to catch up with them immediately. They were simply creatures of the sea, land, and air. It was as if they were in invincible mode, chasing them for 3 days and 3 nights. Only now did it slowly disappear without a trace. Zhu Yao was already lying on her master's body out of exhaustion, and she did not even want to move. Master! She felt that her common sense had suffered a heavy blow, and she wanted to go back and see the animal world again. Yu Yen heaved a sigh of relief as well. Pulling over his disciple's hand which was bitten, he cast a mystic art, only to realize that it was completely useless. His brows instantly furrowed. It's still useless. Zhu Yao felt like crying as she looked at her own hand. She did not know why, but the bite she received from the rabbit earlier, she was actually unable to use mystic arts to heal it. Never mind. Yu Yan's expression was ice-cold, and his mood was a little irritable for some reason. Staring at his disciple's injured hand, he remained silent. I'm really fine. She was, after all, a mighty immortal. Although it was a bit embarrassing to be bitten by a rabbit, it had already scabbed over the past 3 days even without the use of spells. Yu Yen still did not make a sound. However, his expression was getting colder and colder. Even Yu Ying, who was at the side, began to stare at her hand. Don't look like I have a terminal illness, okay? Should I bandage it?
Yes.
Only then did Yu Yen satisfyingly retrieve a piece of white cloth from his storage ring. Tearing it into strips, he then wrapped it around her. Her master was very skillful and wrapped it up very meticulously. She even tied a beautiful knot and casually made a pattern on it. The corners of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Master, we've a rabbit on it. Are you sure it wasn't on purpose? We can't stay here for long. Yu Yen said with a sunken voice. It's best if we find a divine city to settle down in. All right. Just as Zhu Yao was about to stand up, suddenly, from the forest at the side. However, there was a series of rustling sounds. A silhouette suddenly appeared out of nowhere. You guys. Before he could even finish, Yu Yin had already carried his disciple, and with a swoosh, they disappeared without a trace. Sigh. Wait a minute. Wait. The figure flashed and immediately chased after him. Hearing this, not only did Yu Yin not stop, he flew even faster. Zhu Yao turned to look at the person who was relentlessly chasing after them. She reached out her hand and poked at the space in front of her. Master, there's a deity behind us. Not a rabbit. A certain someone's face stiffened, and he stopped in the air with a creak. I'm used to it. A moment later, the figure behind him caught up. The newcomer was in a sorry state. His hair was messy, and there were many stains on his body. He didn't know what it was, but his blue shirt was dyed yellow and white, and there was even a burnt smell. On top of his head, a row of yellow words were written, Unknown Deity, Level 1. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, and a sense of déjà vu filled her mind. He ran a little anxiously, and after panting a few times, he said, Why are you guys running? The corner of the master and disciple's lips twitched. Why are you chasing after us? Zhu Yao asked. I saw you guys running, so I chased after you. When we saw you chasing after us, of course we ran. The man was a little dizzy. He waved his hand and said, Never mind. Never mind. It's rare to see a living person. Are you guys returning to Mountain River City? Mountain River City? Zhu Yao glanced at her master next to her. There really was a divine city nearby. Hence, she immediately nodded. Great, me too. The man replied. Let's go together. In this lost corridor, it's safer to have more people. Having someone to lead the way was naturally more than they could ask for. The master and disciple immediately nodded. Let's go, let's go. The man did not have any interest in making friends either, so he basically did not introduce himself. As though he was simply here to travel together, he immediately flew past them and advanced forward. As he cast a dirt removal art on himself, he casually complained, I sure am unlucky today. I wonder which idiot provoked that bunch of rabbits in the plains, little Whitey. I only managed to shake them off after chasing after this daddy for a long time. The idiot trio. What's even worse is, forget about provoking them, they were actually stupid enough to use mystic arts to attack us. The man grew angrier the more he spoke. Who doesn't know that little Whitey feeds on divine energy? The more mystic arts they use, the more they eat, and the harder they chase after us. Initially, we could have shaken them off in 100 kilometers, but they chased after this daddy for over 1,000 kilometers. The trio who had been chased for 3 days and 3 nights suddenly came to a realization. The man turned to look at the trio who were standing ramrod straight. Did you guys encounter that bunch of annoying rabbits? The trio turned back and said in unison with a stern voice. No. Their expressions were as pure as the clouds in the sky. Oh. The man curled his lips and did not suspect anything. You guys sure are lucky. A moment later, he seemed to have thought of something and said with a mysterious look, Let me tell you guys. Earlier, I saw that among that bunch of crazy rabbits, there was actually one with lightning surrounding its body. It was obvious that it had swallowed lightning arts. It seems like someone from Lightning Divine Hall has entered the tower again. Zhu Yao's heart skipped a beat. She exchanged glances with her master and then intentionally asked, So what if someone from Lightning Divine Hall has entered the tower? Naturally, we have to find him as soon as possible. The man said with a matter-of-fact look. For so many years, only people from Lightning Divine Hall have been able to freely enter and exit the Lightning Divine Tower. Everyone has been unhappy about it for a long time. Furthermore, the previous person who entered the tower had already entered the 10th floor, so naturally, the deities had nothing to worry about. Now that another person has entered, naturally, they have to find him as soon as possible. Hill River City is most likely going crazy looking for him right now. Who would have thought that he would appear in this labyrinth of illusions? If we bring this news back, we can most likely earn a huge sum of money. As though he had thought of something joyous, his eyes shone a little brighter. On the other hand, Zhu Yao's heart sank. Master, Lightning Divine Hall doesn't seem to be easy to mingle around in the tower. Speaking of which, the man suddenly turned to look at the three people next to him and suspiciously sized them up. The three of you. The hell? They couldn't have seen through us, right? Have you ever seen a deity who uses lightning-type arts? Her tensed heart dropped. Ho, of course not. Zhu Yao immediately shook her head. Then what about the person with the Taoist title you? The man continued to ask. People from Lightning Divine Hall all like to move around alone. As long as they're alone, they're worthy of suspicion. Not at all. She looked at my pure eyes. Only then did the man shut his mouth with a disappointed look and increased his speed towards Hill River City. 25th of September, this Friday's author interview, 1930. 2030. Everyone is welcome to meet me. Chapter 352. The Mountain Luo Divine City that the man mentioned wasn't far. In just a few moments, they had already arrived in front of a gigantic formation. That formation floated in the air, and golden seals occasionally revolved around it. It looked like a teleportation formation, but evidently, it was of a much higher grade. The moment they passed through the formation, the surrounding scenery changed. They were already standing on the streets. Earlier, they couldn't even see a single person, but now, there were people everywhere. Zhu Yao raised her head to take a look, only to see a large patch of yellow names and red health bars. Above every single person's head was a line of words, unknown deity. There were even levels behind them. Most of them were level 1, level 2, or level 3. The hell, they couldn't have really activated online game mode, right? Then, were these people in front of them NPCs or monsters? She anxiously turned to look at her own master, only to realize that he didn't have any, and Ewing didn't have any either. Just what was going on? The moment they entered the city, the man waved his hand and separated from them. Zhu Yao had initially wanted to inquire about the situation, but she realized that most of the people in the city had hurried expressions and completely did not have the intention to bother with them. The streets were very clean as well, and there wasn't even a single stall. And at the place they entered from earlier, there were 4 to 5 glowing formations floating in the air. They were of different colors, and occasionally, deities would come and go from them. After discussing with her master, they decided to look around the city. In the end, they realized that at the center of the city, there was an extremely gigantic formation, and at the center of the formation, there were layers of stairs. The 4 sides of the stairs did not have any support, and they looked like layers of white jade floating in the air. Furthermore, they were constantly changing their positions, sometimes high, sometimes low. The highest one reached the sky, while the lowest one was not even a few feet above the ground, and on top of a large boulder beside the mysterious stairs. A few golden words were slowly flowing, and in front of the words, there was even an arrow that was flashing. Next second floor, this way. Next second floor. What does that mean? This looked like a passageway. It should be the second floor of the lower 10 floors of the Lightning Divine Tower. Yu Yin at the side said with a sunken voice. I've heard from my master that the Lightning Divine Tower is separated into the upper and lower 10 floors. This should be the passageway to the lower second floor. As expected, it was a tower, and it was actually separated into floors. According to the international practice of pushing towers, as long as the boss on the highest floor was defeated, the challenge would be successful. She never expected that they would find the elevator so quickly. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Zhu Yao immediately took a huge stride and stepped onto the lowest step, but in the end, she stepped on empty air. He fell to the ground with a thud. Fortunately, her master caught it from below. What was going on? He actually missed his step. Ha 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 ha. Laughter suddenly came from the side. A man in green walked over. Sister, did you just enter the tower? The newcomer looked particularly thin and weak. He was tall, yet extremely tall. His entire person was like a moving bamboo pole. His entire body was filled with dense immortal chi, yet carried a hint of demonic chi. He was actually a demonic immortal. If you don't have the clearance key, you won't be able to step onto the next level. Clearance key? When she finally found someone who was willing to pay attention to her, Zhu Yao immediately went over and said with a chuckle, "This big brother, we have indeed just entered, and we are still not clear about this place. Big brother, do you mind giving us a pointer or two?" This demonic immortal seemed to be in an extremely good mood as he sized her up for a moment. Then, he looked at Yu Yin next to her and Yu Ying at the back. "But first, you have to tell me, have you joined the group?" "Ah, join the group? What's that? The Communist Youth League? Does the Young Pioneers count? She was once a bright red scarf." "You haven't joined the group yet." The demonic immortal's eyes shone, and he was instantly filled with passion. "Great. You're in luck today. Coincidentally, our group is currently recruiting members." Why did he feel like he was in a cult? "Ho ho, do all deities who enter the tower have to join the group?" Zhu Yao asked. "Of course." He nodded heavily and pointed to the few formations in the sky. "Do you see those 5 formations? They're all connected to extremely dangerous secret realms, and nascent divided pearls are placed within every single secret realm. Only by gathering all 5 nascent divided pearls can one form the clearance key to enter the second floor. Furthermore, the nascent divided pearls must leave the secret realm at the same time. Otherwise, they will be teleported back to their original locations by the formations. How can one achieve that with just one person's strength? That's why various groups are formed." "Oh, so it was a Dragon Ball mission. Then, big brother, which group are you from?" The tall and skinny demonic immortal chuckled. He took a step forward and said mysteriously, "Girl, have you heard of Amway?" Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. She then turned around and left. "We're not buying, thank you." "Wait a minute, girl." The tall and skinny man pulled her back and strongly recommended, "Our Amway group is the second largest group in Hill River City. The first group, Cyan Bird Group, has long been filled up." The reason why we're recruiting members this time is because our group just happens to be lacking members. If you miss it, you might not be able to join us anymore. There were actually people who named their group Amway. She completely did not want to be Amway. What could she do? After the tall and skinny man's hard work of recommending, Zhu Yao was still ambushed. She successfully joined the Amway group, and together with her master Yu Ying, she became a member of the 55th small group. Only then did Zhu Yao understand the size of this so-called group. According to what the tall and skinny man said, a small group had at least 5 people. 55 small groups, that meant there were at least 200 or so deities. Then it's settled. The tall and skinny guy was very happy to get a job. He pointed in a direction and said, "You guys go to the Amway Hall to register first. There's one more person in our team. I'll call him over." Just as he was about to leave, he seemed to have thought of something and said apologetically, "Oh right, I almost forgot to ask. My name is Nangong Chung. I'm a demon immortal. May I know your names?" Recalling that the Lightning Divine Hall wasn't an easy place to mingle around, Zhu Yao exchanged glances with her master and activated her name-changing mode. "Ho ho, hello Nangong Chung. I'm called Dongfang Hong." What's wrong?" He turned to look at Yu Yin at the side. "Beichen, Lan." A certain master's expression didn't change. He then looked at Yu Ying, who had been silent all this while. "Shiman, Z." He followed the flow. Zhu Yao immediately gave the party's wit a thumbs up. What a neat naming style. "So it's Dongfang Mei, fellow Taoist North Star, fellow Taoist Shiman." What's so strange about these surnames? But why does it feel so familiar? "I'll see you 3 later." Nangong Chung happily went off to meet his companions, while Zhu Yao and the rest entered the Amway Hall, the legendary headquarters of the Amway Group. The interior wasn't big, and it looked a little like an inn. At the front was a counter, and there were tables and chairs for people to rest in the surroundings. However, there wasn't anyone there, and it seemed a little quiet. There was a deity behind the counter, and he was currently sitting inside, spinning the tablets inside in boredom. Zhu Yao stepped forward and explained her intentions. That deity raised his head and glanced at them. Then, he took out 3 tablets, cast an art, and gave them one each. Then, he gave each of them a piece. This is your team's contact card. It has all the information in it. You found the nascent divided pearls. You can directly use this to contact the others who have found the nascent divided pearls. Zhu Yao took it and looked at it. A special formation was engraved on the jade tablet, and the number 55 was written right at the center. Nangong Cheng said that there were 5 nascent divided pearls in the secret realm. They had to be brought out of the secret realm together in order to synthesize the entry key. Otherwise, they would automatically return to their original locations. Most likely, this jade tablet was used to communicate with the other teams, so that it would be convenient to discuss the timing of exiting the secret realm. They did not have to wait too long in the Amway Hall before Nangong Cheng brought his little companion over. Compared to Nangong Cheng's skinny and malnourished look, his little companion was clearly the type that was overnourished. That sturdy figure and his bulging muscles, from afar, looked as though a mountain had moved over. Yet, he was still wearing a white robe that was a size too small, and his clothes looked as though they were about to split apart. Dongfang Gurli, Daoist Beichen, Daoist Shiman, Nangong Cheng waved his hand at them from afar. Have you all finished registering? He looked at the jade tablets in the 3's hands with satisfaction, and then pointed to the huge mountain behind them. Let me introduce you. This is my close friend. He's called Zhonggu Lu. Great. The east, west, north, south, and center finally formed a mahjong table. Nangong Cheng then introduced the 3 of them to Zhonggu Lu, but evidently, this Zhonggu Lu did not buy it. He glanced at the 3 of them, and then turned his head away with a disgusted look. All right. Since everyone's here, let's go. If we don't hurry, the sky is going to turn dark soon. He rubbed his sturdy arms, and then suddenly pulled out a mirror out of nowhere. He looked left and right at himself. I don't want to travel when the sky turns dark. What if I can't see my flowery beauty? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. With that muscular body of yours, just how do you see your beauty? She only saw flowery. Nangong Cheng was evidently already used to his good friend's personality. He pointed to the yellow formation at the very center in the sky and said, Then let's head to the Jadeite secret realm. I'm rather familiar with the terrain there, and I've already found out the location of the nascent divided pearls. Zhu Yao nodded. They were all novices, so naturally, they had no objections. Hence, she immediately followed Nangong Cheng and flew into the secret realm. In just an instant, a large stretch of stone walls and valleys appeared in front of them. There wasn't much greenery on the ground, and it looked a little barren, probably to allow the novices to familiarize themselves with the next floor faster. The jade tablet they received back then had introduced the 5 secret realms in detail. Currently, this Jadeite secret realm was the smallest out of the 5 secret realms. It wasn't huge, but there were valleys like this everywhere, and the terrain was extremely steep. It was not easy to find nascent divided pearls. Nangong Cheng was an experienced guide, though. After entering the secret realm, he did not hurry to find a way. Instead, he gathered everyone for a meeting and shared his experiences. The nascent divided pearls are at the deepest part of the secret realm. I found out that they're about a kilometer away from the purifying pool. However, there's a demonic beast guarding that place. Demonic beast? Zhu Yao was stunned for a moment. There was actually a demonic beast in this tower. Nangong Cheng nodded. Picking up a tree branch, he began to draw on the ground. I've already found out. That demonic beast is extremely powerful. It doesn't have any intelligence, nor does it understand human speech. It doesn't even have a soul, so it can't be considered a living being. However, Its body is incomparably poisonous, and anyone who touches it will die. Furthermore, the aura it breathes out is extremely poisonous. Even a divine body would be injured by the poisonous aura, and that nascent divided pearl is right in its stomach. Then how do we take it out? If that was the case, they wouldn't even be able to approach it, right? There's no rush for that. All things in the world counteract each other. Though it's an extremely poisonous being, the water of the purifying pool just happens to be able to cure the poison in that demonic beast's body. We have to think of a way to lure it to the side of the pool and kill it. Didn't you say that it doesn't have any intelligence? Zhonggu Lu raised his hand and asked. Then, will it casually follow us to the side of the pool? That's what I'm worried about as well. Nangongcheng sighed and said. Actually, many parties have tried this method before, but for some reason, that demonic beast just refuses to approach the purifying pool. I don't have any confidence in luring it over either. Then what if we bring our own water? Zhu Yao suggested. Naturally, they would bring their own red and blue medicine bottles when fighting monsters. If the water in the pool can cure the poison, we can carry the water with us. It won't be too late to cure the poison after we're poisoned. No. Nangongcheng shook his head. The water of the purifying pool can only be drunk by the side of the pool in order to cure the poison. If we bring it away from the side of the pool, it will turn into normal water. There was even a limit to its usage. This won't work, and that won't work. Then what should we do? Zhonggu Lu glared at him a little irritably, the veins on his hands bulging. So I've decided that we will first observe that demonic beast. Nangongcheng said, let's not be in a hurry to make a move. Let's find out if it has any weak points before attacking. Oh right, there are many demonic beasts attached to it. In case you guys find the wrong target, I will first draw its appearance for you guys to see. Remember, you must not make a move on your own. The little companions immediately came forward and looked at it seriously. He quickly began to draw on the ground, and a moment later, he kept the wooden stick. This is how it looks like. Silence. If you accidentally provoke that demonic beast, remember to hurry back to the purifying pool to cure the poison. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone just have to look for it like this. Let's take a break first, then we'll depart. As he said that, he left the party and began to meditate. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She silently looked at her master next to her. Master, can you tell what this is? Yu Yen was silent for a moment, before replying, Dog? No, I think it's a pig. Zhonggu Lu refuted. Chapter 353. Are you sure that demonic beast is nearby? Zhu Yao nudged the man who was as sturdy as a mountain. Why would I lie to you? Zhonggu Lu glared at her. There's poisonous gas swirling in front, so there's definitely something poisonous inside. Who else could it be other than that magical beast? But we've been squatting here for 3 hours, and we still haven't seen that magical beast come out. Should we go in and take a look? No. Zhonggu Lu immediately shook his head. Why? At least it was better than growing grass here. I heard that the poison is extremely powerful. If you happen to be discovered, it's fine if you get hurt, but if a beautiful woman like me gets hurt, will you take responsibility? She felt that she had been mentally contaminated. You're already like a flower. What's there to be beautiful about? Sai, you should know that a handsome man like me always has a lot of worries. You don't understand. Please swallow back the words peerless magnificence. She really wanted to know where his confidence came from. There's movement. His expression changed, and he pointed at the fog in front of him. It's coming. Zhu Yao instantly stuffed back her 3 views. After taking a closer look, as expected, a pitch-black figure had appeared within the dense fog formed by layers of poisonous gas. She could even faintly hear the sound of heavy breathing. The poisonous mist seemed to have thickened. After a while, the shadow grew larger and larger, and a strong rotting smell wafted over. The shadow also became clearer and clearer until a rough outline could be seen. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Is this the cow-like demonic beast that Captain Nangong drew? Just how in the world did he draw a two-legged creature into a four-legged one? It should be. Zhonggu Lu nodded, and then corrected him. Although it's a little different from the painting, it still bears some resemblance to that pig. How is it similar? Zhu Yao pointed at the demonic beast which was currently breathing out poisonous gas. How does that two-legged creature look like a pig? Their figures are so similar. Dongfang girl, your eyesight is bad. You're the one with bad eyesight. Your whole family has bad eyesight. There are hands and feet over there. It's a dog. A cold affirmation came from behind. Master, why are you here? Zhu Yao was startled. He was not in the same team as Squad Captain Nangong. Did he go to the other side to scout out the terrain? I was worried about you. Yu Yin casually pulled his disciple into his arms. There was not the slightest hint of guilt on his face for acting without authorization. What if his disciple courted death again without watching? He glanced at the black figure in front of him. It's a dog. What's with your eyes? Zhonggu Lu rolled his eyes. It's obviously a pig. No, it's the dog. Definitely a pig. Isn't that supposed to be a sheep? Another voice chimed in. Yuing. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Why was he here as well? What happened to splitting up? Zhonggu Lu, you guys believe me. It's a pig. Yu Yin, a dog. Yuing, sheep. Zhu Yao. She was the only one who was concerned. Was student Nangong currently alone? Roar. A loud roar interrupted their argument. A huge cloud of poisonous gas sprayed towards the place where the four of them were hiding. Fuck. We've been discovered. Zhonggu Lu's expression changed as he retreated in a flash. Retreat. Yu Yin hugged his own disciple and stood together with Yu Ying. At the same time, they retreated several dozen meters. When they looked at the place where they were hiding earlier, the bushes had already begun to wither and turn yellow. They were dyed with layers of black, and there were no longer any signs of life. And that poisonous gas. It was beginning to spread towards them at an extremely fast speed. That terrifying roar grew even louder. Let's go. Zhonggu Lu loudly shouted. To the purifying pool. The moment his voice fell, a black object broke through the mist and flew towards him. Careful. Zhu Yao reminded. Zhonggu Lu summoned a defensive barrier in time, but it was completely useless. That black object directly passed through the barrier. Fortunately, he was nimble and dodged to the side. The moment that black object brushed past him, it crashed onto the ground with a loud boom. A large crater was instantly formed, and it continued to expand, corroding everything in the surroundings. The rotten stench in the air grew thicker. Zhu Yao was dumbfounded as well. This was basically a biological weapon, right? Zhonggu Lu's body was brushed by it as well. In an instant, his mystic robe began to melt. He hurriedly took it off to prevent it from melting as well. What a powerful corrosive power. It was able to create such a large hole in an instant. It was no wonder Squad Captain Nangong said that they would die if they touched it. If even their corpses and bones were to melt, wouldn't they die? Poisonous gas began to emit from the surroundings of the large crater as well. They had no choice but to circle around it. The roar of that demonic beast once again resounded from behind. In an instant, that black poisonous gas from earlier came crashing down towards them like rain. Hurry and dodge, Zhonggu Lu loudly reminded. The four of them did not have the time to run either. They had no choice but to fly while dodging those raindrop-like poisonous gas. It was as though a meteor shower had fallen on the ground, as craters appeared one after another. The poisonous gas in the craters increased, and in just an instant, a large poisonous mist was formed. They had no choice but to stop. What do we do? We can't get out. The demonic beast at the back had caught up to them as well. A gigantic figure stepped out from the poisonous mist. It had a sturdy figure, a pair of horns on its head, and 4 dog-like claws. 2 of them were raised, while the other 2 were on the ground. There were even 2 long fangs by the side of its mouth. Its entire body was purple in color, and black liquid would occasionally flow out from its body. The stench was overwhelming, and it looked extremely disgusting. This demonic beast was neither cow, sheep, pig, nor dog. If it were to put its front hooves down, it would actually look exactly the same as the creature that Squad Captain Nangong had drawn. Everyone. So it wasn't that Student Nangong's drawing wasn't realistic, it was that this demonic beast looked too abstract. The surrounding poisonous gas was growing thicker. Since they couldn't get out, they had no choice but to fight. Zhonggu Lu made a hand seal with his 2 hands and instantly summoned over 100 vines, which he sent towards the demonic beast. Zhu Yao immediately materialized countless icicles as well, and they shot towards that demonic beast at the same time. That odd-looking demonic beast did not even try to dodge. It simply widened its bloody mouth and let out an extremely ear-piercing roar. The vines that were still green earlier instantly withered and turned into ashes, while the icicles that filled the sky instantly turned into water as well. Being tainted by the poisonous gas, they turned into poisonous rain and fell down. Yu Yin immediately cast an art to summon a fire dragon, and the sky filled with fiery light charged into the skies. The fiery light that filled the sky soared into the sky, burning the poisonous rain dry in time. Initially, they thought that there wouldn't be any problems, but their physics teacher told them that when water encounters fire, it will turn into water vapor. And in front of this poisonous demonic beast, it was even more unfortunate, as it turned into water vapor. That's right, the poisonous mist had grown thicker. The area that the 4 of them could move in grew smaller and smaller. In just a few moments, they were only left with a circumference of a few meters. They were no longer in the poisonous mist. That demonic beast, however, suddenly opened its mouth wide, and black light flashed within. It looked as though it was about to spit something out. Without even thinking, they knew that it was definitely the poisonous liquid that had smashed the ground earlier. What should they do? Ice, fire, and wood elemental attacks were all useless. This demonic beast's magic defense was simply too high. Yu Yan's expression sank. With a twist of his hand, he summoned his life origin lightning sword. Master! Zhu Yao's heart clenched. If he were to use lightning-type arts, their identities would be exposed. No worries. Yu Yan stroked her head. There was no other way now. At the very most, it would just be a little troublesome in the future. Just as he was about to cast an art and attack, a hurricane suddenly swept over from the sky, instantly dispersing the poisonous gas surrounding them. Student Nangong, who was left behind, was currently standing in the middle of the hurricane. He came to save them. As expected, he's a good teammate that moved China. Hurry and leave. He only managed to say a single sentence, and the surrounding poisonous gas had already begun to gather. The 4 of them immediately chased after him with their quickest speed. While using wind-type arts to disperse the poisonous mist, they madly flew in the direction of the purifying pool. Behind them, the furious roars of that demonic beast could be heard. They did not dare to stop, as they flew straight towards the purifying pool. Initially, they thought that the demonic beast would not chase after them, but with a few swooshing sounds, the black poisonous liquid that filled the sky instantly sprayed towards the 5-man squad. The moment the poisonous liquid landed on the ground, the few of them flew to the side of the purifying pool. With a few rumbling sounds, the ground was once again filled with holes, and poisonous gas was being emitted from them. Strangely, within a radius of a dozen meters around the purifying pool, the poisonous gas had instantly dispersed. However, the poisonous gas outside the purifying pool was growing thicker, and not even a moment later, the figure of that demonic beast appeared. However, it did not approach them, and simply paced back and forth several dozen meters away. What's going on? Zhu Yao pointed to that demonic beast and looked towards Student Nangong. Didn't you say that it wouldn't follow us? I don't know either. Nangong had a confused look as well. The last time we were here, indeed, the demonic beast had returned the moment we arrived at this pool. No matter how we lured it, it never came over. Today, it's probably in a good mood. This reason was a little too nonsensical, wasn't it? It just so happens that the purifying pool is here. Let's take this opportunity to take it down. Squad Captain Nangong's eyes shone as he said, "This is a heaven-sent opportunity." He studied the terrain for a moment and said, "Though this poisonous gas is powerful, it can still be dispersed by wind-type mystic arts." Adding that we all have divine physiques, even if we are stuck with the poisonous gas, it shouldn't be a problem for us to last a few minutes inside. Furthermore, this pool water can instantly disperse the poisonous gas. We can use wind-type mystic arts as a shield, and take turns to lure the demonic beast out, while taking turns to come in and dispel the poison. As long as we aren't injured by the poisonous gas, it isn't impossible to slowly defeat this demonic beast. What do you guys think? Was this the meaning of switching tanks? It was indeed a good idea. Everyone pondered for a moment, before nodding their heads. Then it's decided. Squad Captain Nangong looked at the demonic beast that was still pacing back and forth outside. Casting a wind shield mystic art, his entire body was instantly enveloped by spiral-like winds, and he was the first to charge out. Just as she was about to cast an art, a wind shield had already wrapped around her body. Turning around, she glanced at a certain someone who had just put down his hand. "Master, don't stray too far from your master," he instructed, and then, he had already flown up. Zhu Yao instantly felt warmth in her heart. Who said that warmth was useless? Though Squad Captain Nangong's battle plan was perfect, it could not withstand the boss' thick skin and thick flesh. Furthermore, the various mystic arts they had used earlier were completely ineffective against this demonic beast. Hence, though the 5 of them were not injured, they did not gain any advantage either. Squad Captain Nangong seemed to be very proficient in wind-type mystic arts, but he could only disperse the fog. When the wind blades landed on the opponent's body, a bunch of misses floated up, and they did not possess any killing power. Furthermore, it wasn't convenient for her and her master to directly use lightning-type mystic arts either. Fortunately, her master's sword arts were top-notch as well. Summoning spiritual swords that filled the sky, he was able to firmly lock down the demonic beast's movements. Furthermore, the biting cold sword aura was also the only thing that could cut through the opponent. He became the party's main attacker. Zhu Yao knew all 5 types of mystic arts, but other than lightning, she was most familiar with water and ice. Back then, when she was teaching Little Radish, she had deeply researched them. However, this demonic beast was not afraid at all. When the icicles landed on its body, not even a scratch was left behind, and misses constantly floated up above its head. Zhonggu Lu was even more unlucky. His wood mystic arts had basically withered before they could even take form, leaving behind a pile of rotten grass. Yu Ying was still able to help out a little, as he restrained the demonic beast from the left and right with his master. He retracted all of the devilic energy in his body, and simply used mystic arts to attack like the others. Zhu Yao did not know what he was thinking, and did not want to bother about it either, allowing him to do as he pleased. "You guys hold on. I'll catch my breath." Zhonggu Lu turned around and returned to the purifying pool to detoxify his poison. His face was ashen, and as he walked, he said, "This demonic beast, seriously. It seems like it was born to be my nemesis. It instantly extinguished the life force of my wood mystic arts." Life force? Zhu Yao was startled for a moment, as something flashed past her mind. Raising her head, she carefully looked at that demonic beast. Ever since she entered the tower, every living being would have their names and levels above their heads. It was as though she had switched to an online game's perspective. She had asked her master before, and she seemed to be the only one who could see this. Zhu Yao had always thought that it was a cheat given to her by Realm Spirit. Naturally, This demonic beast was no exception. A few words floated above its head as well. Early-stage demonic beast, poison. However, its name was read. As for Zhonggu Lu and Squad Captain Nangong, the words above their heads were, Unknown Deity, Level 1. After they introduced themselves, the words above their heads turned into their own names, and the words changed from yellow to blue. In the beginning, Zhu Yao did not pay too much attention to these words. Now that she thought about it, these names were really the same as the settings in online games. Red names indicated that they were hostile targets, just like the demonic beasts right now. Yellow names indicated that they would passively attack their targets, and only after attacking them would they turn into red names and retaliate. Just like that heaven-defying rabbit on the plains back then, it only managed to chase after them after she poked it. Initially, it did not take the initiative to bite her. And the reason why Zhonggu Lu and Nangong Cheng's names were blue was because they had formed a party with her. Only the names of teammates in the same party would be shown in blue. If that was the case, the brackets behind the names should be showing their levels and attributes. This demonic beast belonged to the poison attribute. According to the rules of online games, poison was the attribute that could deprive life force. Hence, the three attributes of water, wood, and fire were completely useless against it. It was very normal for her icicles to miss when they struck it. If she wanted to deal with it, then she could only. Zhu Yao immediately flew towards the party captain. She had to report the strategy to him. Captain. What was the party captain's name again? Nangong. Huang. I'm called Nangong Cheng. Flips table. The hell is Nangong Huang? Whatever, in any case, they're pretty much the same. How were Cheng and Huang similar? Even their colors were different, alright? Chapter 354. I have an idea. Our mystic arts are all useless, but I feel that this demonic beast's poison is definitely able to strip away the life force of all living things and turn it into its own. Zhu Yao analyzed. I believe the way to counter it is to use mystic arts that do not have any life force. Nangong Cheng was stunned. He widened his eyes and said, Are you saying that only the earth and metal elements can hurt it? Yes. No wonder only fellow Taoist Northstar and fellow Taoist Shiman were able to injure it. Nangong pondered for a moment before realization dawned on his face. The sword formation is a metal-type spell technique. That demonic beast is very agile. Although the sword formation can attack, it can't hold it back for too long. Nangong Huang, how's your earth elemental magic? I already told you my name is Nangong Cheng. I'm not proficient in earth-type arts, but... He turned to look at Zhonggu Lu, who had been slacking off. What? The muscular man, Zhonggu Lu, said with a disgusted look. I'm not going over. That demonic beast is so disgusting. What if it accidentally injures my flower-like face when I get close to it? Is this the time to care about my image? Roar. Suddenly, that demonic beast once again let out a furious roar. Under the combined attacks of Yu Yin and Yu Ying's sword formation, many wounds had already appeared on its body. As though it had been forced into a corner, this roar was especially violent, and it was filled with pressure. Suddenly, he landed on all fours and changed his posture, but his body began to emit that kind of venom. Not good. It's going to use venom to attack. Nangong Cheng's expression changed. It had intentionally released so much venom. If it were to shake its body, the venom would definitely engulf the entire world. Even if it returned to the purifying pond, it wouldn't be able to withstand it. What to do? He couldn't drag it out any longer. He had to end the battle quickly. However, Zhonggu Lu, this boorish man of the Appearance Association, actually dropped the ball at the last moment, not daring to step forward. It's settled then. Team leader Nangong Cheng had a serious look on his face as he sent a telepathic message to the two people in front of him. In a while, after the Earth-type spell is cast, the four of us will attack together and kill the demonic beast in one blow. I don't want to go. That poisonous gas is no joke. Zhonggu Lu had a determined look. As he said that, he decided to fly in the direction of the purifying pool. I'm so beautiful, I don't want to. Before he could finish his sentence, Nangong Chang had already silently conjured a large water mirror in front of him. In an instant, his face, which had been infected by the poisonous gas, was reflected in the mirror. 2 seconds later, Nangong Chang silently covered his ears. Before Zhu Yao could even understand what he meant, a miserable cry instantly pierced through the sky. Everyone shuddered when they heard it. My face. From the moment they entered the poisonous fog, the few of them had more or less been infected with some of the poisonous gas. However, he was the one who had been infected the most, and it was directly reflected on his face. Zhonggu Lu's entire being instantly changed, and the divine energy around him instantly exploded out. Zhu Yao could faintly see that the thing called fury was currently burning around his body. He stopped in his tracks and glared fiercely at the demonic beast behind him. You bastard! How dare you hurt my face? His figure suddenly flashed and rushed forward. Suddenly, there were a few rumbling sounds, and earth spikes shot out from the ground, directly nailing the beast's 2 claws. The beast let out a miserable scream. In an instant, the poisonous gas attack earlier was interrupted. However, it was not over yet. Right below it, a fist formed from earth suddenly appeared, instantly smashing the demonic beast onto the ground. In an instant, countless earth spikes and stone pillars shot out from the ground, rumbling as they wildly dug towards the demonic beast. Your grandpa, you dare to hurt my face. You motherfucking dare to hurt my face. This old man has been cultivating for so many years, and there has never been anyone who dared to hurt my face. You bastard, trash. You actually dare to hurt me. Die, die, die. As he fought, he cursed. He used his mystic arts quickly and ruthlessly, and even his hair was standing straight from anger. Zhu Yao simply saw a bunch of damage values floating above the demonic beast's head. -1,000, -2,000, -3,000. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Was this really that smug teammate who only knew how to slack off? Why did she feel like some sort of incredible seal had been opened? Hey, girlie, let's go. Squad Captain Nangong waved at her with a calm look. Amen. Let's proceed according to plan. Plan my ass. Flips table. Don't look as though everything is within your grasp. Your gay friend is clearly going berserk. Hey. After Zhonggu Lu used Earth Mystic Arts to vent his anger, that pitiful demonic beast no longer had the strength to retaliate. It finally let out a furious roar and used its claws to slap away those earth spikes, wanting to regain its dignity as a boss. However, Zhonggu Lu suddenly circulated all of the divine energy in his body and cast an art. In an instant, the ground shook, and after completing the hand seal, he immediately activated it. Landslide, Earthrend. In an instant, the entire ground rumbled, and then, like an earthquake, it split open into 2 sides. The demonic beast lost its balance and fell straight into the ground. However, the instant it fell in, its figure began to transform. It grew a pair of wings and flew up. Just as it was about to escape from the fissure, Zhonggu Lu gritted his teeth. Zhonggu Lu gritted his teeth. In an instant, a dozen or so earth pillars swiftly extended out from the ground. Like chains, they wrapped around his body and directly pulled him back. Now, under Squad Captain Nangong's command, the other 4 people cast their arts at the same time. In an instant, 4 gigantic spiritual swords the size of mountains appeared in the air. Carrying boundless might, they instantly dispersed the surrounding poisonous miasma and smashed downwards at the same time, hitting the demonic beast. A scream instantly resounded throughout the entire secret realm. 4 rows of the same words floated out from that demonic beast's body. Lethal damage, 100,000. After struggling for a few times, it slowly lost all signs of life. The surrounding poisonous miasma began to dissipate as well, revealing the originally blue sky. Success. Zhu Yao was a little exhausted. That sword strike earlier had used up a large half of her divine energy. In an instant, her legs turned a little soft. Her figure swayed, but the side of her waist tightened. In the next instant, she was leaning into a familiar embrace. Master. Yu Yin lowered his head to glance at her. After realizing that she was fine, he habitually stroked her head. He wanted to praise his disciple's outstanding performance, but he did not know how to start. How could he praise someone if he wasn't used to it? Zhu Yao, however, had already pulled him towards the demonic beast's corpse. She had to admit, this boss was simply too hard to fight. Compared to the monsters she had encountered before, in terms of HP and HP, only the gods and devils could surpass it. The main point was, it even had magic defense, so the damage divine arts dealt to it was not very high. However, fortunately, she managed to put it down. Squad Captain Nangong said that the nascent divided pearl was in its stomach. Zhu Yao glanced at the mountain-like corpse, and her expression darkened. This, do I have to dissect it? She was not interested in dissecting corpses. Dissect it? Squad Captain Nangong looked at her strangely. How's that possible? Not dissect it? Then how are they going to retrieve the quest item? Just as she was about to ask, suddenly, that pitch-black poisonous corpse emitted out a lustrous light and began to slowly turn into mist in front of her eyes. In the end, it actually turned into a lump of purplish-black poisonous miasma, which was more than 100 times thicker than the poisonous miasma from before. This is? She was shocked. Don't you know that demonic beasts are undying? Squad Captain Nangong gave a "my teammate has no common sense" look. Undying? Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. She turned to look at the half-dissolved corpse on the ground. Could it be that it can still revive? That's right. Do you have to tell me such a terrifying setting with such a serious face, hey? This demonic beast was born from the poisonous miasma of this land in the first place. Squad Captain Nangong explained with a matter-of-fact look. How can poisonous miasma have life? We are simply scattering it, and 3 days later, these poisonous miasma will once again gather into a new demonic beast. This really was a monster, and it could even respawn endlessly. Hey. After Squad Captain Nangong said that, he looked towards the center of the poisonous miasma. A red light flashed, and a red pearl was slowly rising. It grew taller and taller, and it looked as though it was about to charge out of the poisonous miasma. His expression turned joyful as he pointed at the pearl. That's the nascent divided pearl. Let me first contact the teams from the other secret realms. Zhu Yao took a closer look and saw 6 white words written on top of the red pearl, one of the key fragments. Seeing that the pearl was about to fly out of the poisonous miasma, Zhu Yao took a step forward. She reached out her hand and was about to pick up the boss quest item. She glanced at the strand of purple miasma on the pearl and hesitated for a moment. Suddenly, a figure flashed by her side and snatched the nascent divided pearl before her. I never expected that with just the few of you, you would actually be able to defeat this demonic beast. Several unfamiliar figures suddenly appeared in the air. They were dressed differently, and there were a total of 7 men and 1 woman. Their eyes were faintly filled with excitement. And the one who snatched the nascent divided pearl was the green-robed male deity who was leading the group. Who are you people? Nangong Chung frowned deeply as he cautiously looked at this group of people who came with ill intentions. Naturally, we're treasure hunters. The leading man coldly snorted as he looked at the clearly exhausted 5 people with disdain. Seeing how the few of you risked your lives to kill this demonic beast, it can be considered as a form of hard work. I won't kill you all, so leave. You're trying to steal the treasure. Squad Captain Nangong's face was filled with anger. So what if I am? That man did not have the slightest hint of guilt. Squad Captain Nangong clenched his fists as he gritted his teeth in hatred. Though stealing treasures was a very common occurrence, and these secret realms were filled with such people as well. Nascent divided pearls weren't hard to come by. What was hard was how to protect the treasure, and how to find an opportunity to leave the secret realm together. Hence, before he came in to kill the demonic beast, he had already made preparations. However, he never expected that these people in front of him would be so shameless. The moment they killed the demonic beast, these people immediately rushed out to steal the treasure. Evidently, they had already set their eyes on them. Yet, they had yet to recover their vitality. In the battle earlier, everyone had exhausted their divine energy, especially Zhonggu Lu, who seemed to be completely exhausted. Against these people, they had no chance of winning at all. You guys aren't bad either. Just the 5 of you are able to kill this demonic beast. Even I have to say that I'm impressed. Though that man was speaking words of praise, his smile was filled with glee. Squad Captain Nangong was already gritting his teeth in anger, while Zhonggu Lu looked as if he wanted to disfigure his face. Though, the expressions of the other 3 people were a little strange. Yu Yin still had an expressionless face that looked like a 10,000-year-old block of ice. Yu Ying simply looked at Zhu Yao with a focused expression, while Zhu Yao's face was worried. You there? Zhu Yao could not help but call out to the leading man who stole the treasure. Chapter 355. I want to say, Imin? That man frowned and glared at her a little discontentedly. What? Do you still want to go against me? No, I just wanna. Let me give you a piece of advice. A wise man submits to circumstances. I have already magnanimously spared your lives. I just want to. If you people continue to be stubborn, I don't mind sending you off either. Fellow deity. As for this nascent divided stone, stop dreaming. Just treat it as if you have never obtained it. Actually, you people will feel a little better if you think like that. Is your hand really fine? My hand. What? The man was stunned for a moment. Zhu Yao weakly pointed at the pearl in his hand. I'm saying, are you fine after holding onto that pearl for so long? Earlier, I saw that there was still poison left on it. The man's complacent face instantly paled. What are you talking about? His expression changed, and suddenly, his entire body was suffused with a dark purple color. He began to twitch, and then, he fell head first into the dense fog formed by the demonic beast earlier. In an instant, a series of miserable cries rang out. His body began to quickly corrode, yet he could not use even a single strand of mystic energy. Save me. He reached out a hand to seek help from his teammates in the air. Halfway through, his hand had already turned into bone, and then it completely melted away. This unforeseen event happened extremely quickly. In less than 5 breaths of time, the man's figure had already disappeared from the fog. What remained were various terrifying and despairing screams that resounded in the air. As for the group of teammates that came with him, none of them moved at all. They all had shocked expressions on their faces. Zhu Yao frowned. So, villains die because they talk too much. Boss. That group of people finally moved. A female deity with a pale expression called out. Her voice was filled with fear, and she turned to glare at the 5 people on the ground. Her eyes were filled with rage. You people killed him. Please. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at this belated statement. If she was really that worried, why didn't she save him earlier? We didn't do anything. If you knew that the nascent divided pearl was poisonous, why didn't you say so earlier? The female deity gritted her teeth. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Are you retarded? You guys fucking came to snatch my stuff, and I have to wash it clean and wait for you to come and snatch it, right? Where did this self-righteousness come from? You. The woman was flustered. You what you? Zhu Yao, however, was enraged. Are you guys still going to snatch the nascent divided pearls? Anyway, it's a poisonous one. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Take it or leave it. If you really want to fight. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Don't think that we're afraid of you. At the very most, they would perish together. Hurry up and decide. We still have to rush to fight other monsters. You. The female immortal was so angry that her face turned green. Just as she was about to step forward, she was stopped by a person in blue with white tattoos. This person was also the only one in the group who had the words, "Unknown Immortal," above his head. Wait. Why are you stopping me? Since it's already useless, there's no point in fighting over it, the man said in a deep voice. The female immortal gritted her teeth and did not charge forward. He ruthlessly glared at Zhu Yao. With an unwilling look, he followed the crowd and left. Only then did Zhu Yao heave a sigh of relief. Yu Yin frowned at the side. He held onto her palm and solemnly said, "No need to worry, your master. I know." Zhu Yao chuckled. If they were to really bring out their true strength, though they did not seem to have the advantage in numbers, with her master dealing with a few other high deities, they would definitely win for sure. However, in this tower, Lightning Divine Hall's hatred seemed to be quite high. If she could avoid exposing it, then she would. Ha! I never expected to obtain a useless pearl. Squad Captain Nangong was sad. He glanced at the red pearl that was still sparkling within the poisonous mist. I wasted so much of my strength for nothing. Student Zhonggu Lu was a little irritated as well. He subconsciously touched his own face, looking as though he was in pain. He wondered if the poison had completely dispersed. He hurriedly summoned a water mirror and carefully inspected himself. Not necessarily. Zhu Yao chuckled and cast a wind art. After spending a huge amount of effort, she finally blew away the layers of thick mist and quickly formed a formation to eject the nascent divided pearl. The marble rolled a few rounds, and in an instant, it arrived at her feet. The poisonous mist once again gathered into a ball, and after being affected by the highly concentrated poisonous mist for a second time, the red pearl that only had a sliver of black aura earlier had now turned half black. Dongfeng girlie, what are you trying to do? Squad Captain Nangong looked at her anxiously. You saw it earlier as well. This pearl is highly poisonous. You can't touch it. I have an idea, Squad Captain Nangong Huang. I'm Nangong Chung. Flip's table. Why did she always call out his name wrongly whenever she had an idea? Don't mind such details. He did mind. All right? He silently glanced at the white-robed male practitioner at the side. Take care of your disciple. Hey. The latter continued to remain expressionless. As long as my disciple doesn't court death, it has nothing to do with me. Squad Captain Huang, I don't think this pearl is useless. Why did he become Squad Captain Huang again, hey? This pearl is stained with poison. We can't take it, so how are we supposed to bring it out of the secret realm? He took a deep breath. He was a squad captain with principles. This demonic beast has an undying body, so it must have been challenged by others many times. There are so many practitioners who entered the upper levels, so our squad definitely isn't the only one who encountered this problem. You're saying there's a way to remove this poison? His eyes shone. Everything in the world has a counter to each other. How do you think the purifying pool came about? Oh, right. He slapped his thigh, and only then did he recall the purifying pool at the back. Since that pool could disperse the poisonous miasma, it shouldn't be impossible to remove this poison as well. Let's not waste any more time. Hurry and place the nascent divided pearl into the pool, Squad Captain Huang. Zhu Yao waved her hand, and then said to Zhonggu Lu at the side, Oh right, little teal. I'll have to trouble you to use an earth-type mystic art to transport the pearl over. You're more professional. Nangong Chung. I already said I'm Nangong Chung. Zhonggu Lu. What the hell is Little Teal? Zhu Yao's thoughts were not wrong. The moment Zhonggu Lu threw the poisonous pearl into the pool, the poisonous miasma on the pearl began to dissolve. Though the speed was much slower than dispersing the poisonous miasma, it was finally beginning to regain its original red color. I have already contacted the squads from the other secret realms. Squad Captain Nangong sighed. Based on the current situation, only 3 out of the 4 secret realms have found nascent divided pearls. The last secret realm has yet to be conquered. It seems like we can't leave the secret realm now. Are we just going to wait like this? Zhonggu Lu was a little irritated. The poison in this nascent divided pearl will probably disperse after a day. When that time comes, there will definitely be people coming to try and steal the treasure. This time, we won't be as lucky as before. Zhu Yao frowned as well. It was easy to search for treasures, but it was hard to guard them. Back then, because the pearl was poisoned, they left. This nascent divided pearl wasn't poisoned. And once the news spreads, who knows how many people would be attracted over. No matter how high their cultivation levels were, they wouldn't be able to fight against a sea of people. Heh, there just happens to be one more nascent divided pearl that we haven't found. We can't leave immediately either. Wait, apart from his own disciple. Other than his own disciple, Yu Yin, who had been ignoring the others the entire time, suddenly spoke up. His ice-cold eyes swept across the crowd and finally landed on his disciple. His eyes were a little warm. Setting up a formation is enough. He did not care if the others understood him either, and immediately set down layers of concealment and defensive formations by the side of the pool. The nascent divided pearls that were already half purified in the pool slowly disappeared, along with the poisonous gas that had yet to be purified. That formation was extremely ingenious. Even the ripples of divine energy were hidden away. Continue to attack the demonic beasts. He continued with a solemn voice. The crowd was startled, and they instantly understood what he meant. Good idea. Nangong Chung had an excited look. We will hide the nascent divided pearls in this pool, and 3 days later, that demonic beast will naturally revive. Then, we will pretend that we didn't obtain the nascent divided pearls and continue to attack the demonic beasts. As long as we don't kill them, we naturally won't be suspected by others. When the final secret realm is contacted, then, we will charge out together. As expected, it's a good idea. Daoist Beichen. The more Nangong Chung thought about it, the more he felt that it was feasible. His eyes shone as he looked at Yu Yin. He never expected that although he looked cold, he actually had quite an idea, just as he was about to express his admiration for him. However, Zhu Yao suddenly squeezed in. With a smack, she slapped away the claws that he extended towards her. Ho ho, Captain Huang, let's think about how we're going to hide for the next 3 days. Zhu Yao smiled with an amiable look. You dare to touch my master with your claws? Why did he suddenly feel that Dongfang Girli's expression was so terrifying? In order to hide the fact that they had already obtained the mission item, adding that the demonic beasts had yet to revive, the crowd pondered for a moment. They decided to make a trip back to the city. Earlier, there was already a small squad that found out about them killing the demonic beasts, and they were certain that there were people who were unwilling to give up and came back to investigate. They might as well directly return to the city and make their presence known. This way, even if others had doubts, they would most likely be dispelled. Because the setting of the nascent divided pearls was that returning to the city alone was ineffective, and all 5 of them had to be brought together. As expected, the moment they returned to the city, they received countless gazes of pity and schadenfreude. Zhu Yao and the others were newcomers, so it wasn't a big deal. Nangong and Zhonggu, who were familiar with each other, had already gained some popularity in the city. They immediately received a huge wave of sympathy from various passers-by, and among them, there was no lack of people who threw stones at them when they were down. The 2 of them accepted all of them with gloomy expressions, perfectly portraying the image of an unlucky youth who was possessed by the god of misfortune and was in despair. As for Zhu Yao's master and Yuing, they quietly watched them act cool at the side. Three days later, the few of them announced that they would once again enter the same secret realm and challenge the same demonic beasts to regain their pride. No one doubted them, and instead, they sent them into the secret realm with a wave of ridicule and ridicule. Just like that, the 55th squad easily returned to the side of the demonic beasts, while the nascent divided pearls were still quietly lying in the pool. The few of them discussed and decided to knock on that unlucky demonic beast that revived every 2 hours as an act to deal with the deities who came to watch. Of course, except for Zhonggu Lu. The poisonous gas back then had cast a shadow over his heart, and he refused to go out no matter what. Every day, he would squat by the side of the pool and look at his own face with the water mirror, afraid that he would be poisoned again. A month later, the crowd of deities saw that the 5 of them were still guarding the demonic beast, yet they were still unable to kill it. One after another, they sighed and walked away. These people were really idiots. There was more than one demonic beast in this secret realm, yet they just had to go against it. For a moment, everyone gave up on the thought of snatching the treasure, and slowly, no one went to block the way to pick up the leftovers. Only when the people who found the nascent divided pearls in the 5 secret realms had contacted each other did the 5 of them rush out of the secret realm together. Only then did the deities regain their senses. They were fooled, but unfortunately, the outcome was already set. Chapter 356. The moment they exited the secret realm, the nascent divided pearls had already flown out. Together with the 4 pearls brought out by the other secret realm teams, they combined together. Then, they turned into several white light spots and entered the foreheads of the few people who just exited the secret realm. A talisman imprint of the word, one, faintly appeared. The stone steps leading to the second floor, which they couldn't step on previously, automatically floated to their feet, lifting them up to a bright place above their heads. Zhu Yao curiously stroked the one-character talisman on her forehead. It seemed like this talisman was the proof of passing this stage. Most probably, this number was calculated according to the number of floors passed. The first floor was the first floor, the second floor, wait a minute. At the thought of having a 2 above his head in the future, he immediately felt uncomfortable. Because they needed to gather all 5 nascent divided pearls, there were 19 people in this group who passed together. They all flew towards the white light above their heads. Not long after, everyone was surrounded by white light. She only saw a flash of white light in front of her, and she could faintly see that everyone was surrounded by flowing light. She immediately felt refreshed, and her inner breath almost doubled in an instant. In the next moment, everyone was standing on a white stone platform. The names above the immortals' heads had all been refreshed. There were no longer any level 1 immortals. Most of them were unknown immortals. Did they all level up? Even their party was the same. Above the leader's head was Nangong Huang, level 3, and the brawny teammate beside him was also Little Green. What's wrong? Zhu Yao once again glanced at her master at the side and Yuing at the back. There were still no names or levels above the heads of the 3 of them. She wondered if the system had crashed. However, why did Nangong Huanglian level up twice while Little Greenie only leveled up once? Was it because the party leader ate a lot of experience? The surrounding white light dissipated, and suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the front. They're coming up. Hurry up and surround him. Don't let him escape. She heard a few rustling sounds, and then a large group of unknown immortals crowded in front of her. All of them were level 2 or 3. In an instant, they surrounded the dozen of them so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Pairs of eyes stared at them. He looked at them with excitement and scrutiny. Zhu Yao was shocked as she looked at the people surrounding her. Were they trying to show off their might to a rookie? Stop them. They're definitely inside. Check carefully. We can't miss it. This is the first batch of people who came here after receiving the news. They are definitely inside. This is such a rare opportunity. Don't let him escape. A large group of second and third level immortals began to discuss among themselves with a hint of eagerness and excitement, as if they were looking for someone. Zhu Yao's heart trembled. Suddenly, he had a bad premonition, and he couldn't help but tug at his master beside him. Don't worry. His master immediately sent a voice transmission over. We have not received the floor master's immortal seal. As long as we do not reveal our cultivation techniques, they will not be able to recognize us. Oh. It was no wonder that his master refused to become the tower master back then. It was not because it was troublesome, but to guard against this? Master was thinking too far ahead, wasn't he? Wouldn't he be letting down a certain tower master like this? But I still want to give it a thumbs up. None of these people possess the aura of the divine seal of the lightning divine tower. Is he not here? Sure enough, one of the immortals standing inside took a closer look at the dozen or so immortals who had just entered the second floor. He frowned. They were really looking for them. How is this possible? Someone else also noticed this problem. Didn't the person who came last time say that he saw someone using a lightning attribute cultivation technique in the lower levels? Shouldn't they be here by now? Even if the floor master's immortal seal had been passed down, it shouldn't have disappeared so quickly. Could it be that the next batch is coming? The surrounding deities instantly revealed looks of disappointment. Some had already begun to leave, but there were still some who did not give up and came forward to inquire about it. I don't believe it. The new disciples of Lightning Divine Hall are definitely inside. What are your names? Is there anyone with the Daoist name? The 19 people who had just leveled up were a little angry. Since it was their first time here, they didn't want to offend anyone, so they reported their names or Taoist names one by one. The more they reported, the more disappointed they became. Soon, it was the 55th team's turn. Zhu Yao was instantly filled with confidence. He lied without blushing or gasping for breath. I'm Zhang San, Yu Yin, Li Si, Yu Ying, Wang Wu, Zhonggu Lu. The hell is Zhao Lu? Nangong Cheng, Sun Qi. Huh, why did I pick up this name? The faces of the deities faintly twitched for a moment. Why did they feel that something was amiss? Only when all 19 people's names had been reported did the deities disperse with disappointed looks. They all returned to their own homes to look for their mothers. Bamboo Squad Captain Nangong was dumbfounded for a moment as well. Why did he subconsciously say the name Sun Qi? Hey, forget it. He turned to look at his squad mates behind him. Dongfang Girly, we have to hurry to the Amway Hall to receive the next mission. There's an Amway Hall here as well? Zhu Yao was startled. Of course. Squad Captain Nangong said with a proud look. This lord has people above him. We, the Amway Hall, have branches in the lower 10 floors. Just how many people did you guys Amway Hall? Compared to the first floor, the divine city of the second floor was much bigger. The group of 5 searched for a long while before they saw the signboard for the Amway Hall at the corner of the East Street. Compared to the first floor, there were even more deities on the second floor. At the very center of the street, they saw a flight of stairs similar to the one on the first floor. It should be leading to the lower 3 floors. This time, when they returned to the Amway Hall, there were no deities guarding it. However, a small formation was currently flashing in the Great Hall. After taking a closer look, this formation was the same as the one leading to the lower 3 floors in the city. Only after asking did they find out that the formation was used to transmit information to newcomers. Zhu Yao immediately placed the jade tablet she obtained from the lower floor into the formation. Sweeping through it with her divine sense, She found that there were many more things in the jade tablet as expected. Including the map of this floor, there was even a mission introduction. After taking a closer look, compared to the lower floor, this floor's mission was much harder. To sum it up, the lower floor was a group of people fighting against a single monster, while this floor was a group of people fighting against a group of monsters. The content was still the same: collect nascent divided pearls to synthesize the pass. However, the amount of traffic this time was a little higher, so each person needed 10 pearls. This jade tablet did not explain how to obtain these nascent divided pearls. I believe this mission will be much harder. Squad Captain Nangong frowned, and the quantity required this time is too great. With the 5 of us working together, it will most likely be very hard to complete. Why don't we? He suddenly turned to look at Zhu Yao and said with a scorching gaze, Dongfang girly, let's go pimp. With a swoosh, a cold sword that was suffused with a cold light was already placed on his neck. Wait, 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 wait. Fellow Taoist Beichen, don't be agitated. Don't be agitated. I meant to recruit people. Recruit people? It was a slip of the tongue. A slip of the tongue. Your slip of the tongue is a little too far off, isn't it? Are you sure you didn't accidentally expose your true nature? Fellow Taoists, are you people from the Amway Hall as well? A gentle voice suddenly sounded from behind them. When she turned to look, she only saw a light breeze blowing past, and 6 dazzling figures appeared at the entrance. Zhu Yao instantly felt a tortoise, Apui, a tyrannical aura assaulting her. Dear ones, do you still remember the promise we made by Great Lake? Today, we'll be having an interview with an author at 7:30. Address to be continued. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.